Shows how little you know politics.
Choose your destiny.
You can go left or you can go right. You can go forward, but never ever back.
I want to hear your thoughts.
Good evening, my little one. I shall make you psychotic.
Mommy, what does psychotic mean?
I want to hear your thoughts.
Choose your destiny.
You can go left or you can go right. You can go forward, but never ever back. Yeah. Woke up.
I ain't feeling your side. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? KCE, King Chaka.
And now, another
Yeah.
major production.
Yeah, I'm about to tell you what the real is. Deep down inside, you got to feel it. Emotions have the most number of killings. Pay close attention to your feelings. I'm about to tell you what the deal is. And when I'm talking, all I'm hearing is some crickets. Yeah, hurry, honey, run and get your ticket. Just getting money is not always the business. Yeah.
Hey, how y'all doing out there? How y'all feel? Remember, an educated public cannot be controlled. Learn to be active. The views and events expressed here are totally whacked and are not necessarily the views of anyone. ¿Cómo estás? Bien. ¿Podemos ayudarnos más? Sí se puede. Don't take my word for it. Look that mess up, please. How y'all feeling? Excuse me. Free speech is dead. That's the name of the show today. But I think I'm going to ease into that topic. Give myself a chance to kind of warm up. If you guys watch the show regularly, then you know how it goes. I prefer to ease into it. So I think I'm gonna start with let's just read some headlines. Let's read some AP headlines to start off. Then we're gonna get into it. This one, it says, House Republicans look to pass two-step package to avoid partial government shutdown. See, we thought we was out of that situation, but all they did was postpone it. It's so irritating how they play these political games with this government shutdown stuff. So we got another government shutdown looming, if you didn't know. This one, it says, a Wisconsin judge orders to the former Chief of Justice to turn over records related to impeachment advice. That's interesting. Hold on, y'all. Let me make sure I'm broadcasting. I'd hate to be sitting here thinking I'm talking to someone and not. I hate to be sitting here. At least I can be talking to myself. It says dozens of Chinese ships chase Philippine vessels as U.S. renews warning it will defend its treaty ally. So dozens of Chinese ships chase Philippine vessels as U.S. renew. Let's look at this. Can we see the damn article? Can y'all stop? Thank you. So it's got a little picture here. Guess that's showing the drama. It's got camera crew on there. Now, what's it? A camera crew just so happened to be there when some drama like this pops up. So what? There's 17 pictures here. Chinese Coast Guard and suspected Chinese militia ship blocked the Philippine Coast Guard ship BRP Cobra as they approached Second Thomas Shoal, locally known as Ayungin Shoal, during a resupply mission at the disputed South China Sea on Friday, November 10th, 2023. The disputed South China Sea. That's interesting as hell. Like, it's, how is it disputed? It's South China Sea. Like, more pictures. Showing the Coast Guard. Seems like a photo op right here, like just randomly. But then again, what do I know? Let's read some. It says, so this was by Jim Gomez and Joel Calapitan, November 11th, 2023. That's today. It says, as a U.S. Navy surveillance plane flew in circles, keeping a close watch, dozens of Chinese Coast Guard and accompanying ships chased and encircled Philippine vessel in the latest confrontation in the most dangerous flashpoint in the South China Sea. At the height of Friday's 4-hour face-off in the high seas, a Chinese Coast Guard ship blasted a water cannon toward a Philippine motorboat, delivering food and other supplies to Filipino forces on a marooned, rusting warship that serves as the country's fragile territorial outpost at Second Thomas Shoal. China has steadfastly stood by its claim to virtually the entire strategic waterway, clashing with its similar neighbors and drawing in the United States, Manila's treaty ally and China's main rival in the Asian Pacific region. Washington and its allies have deployed Navy ships and fighter aircraft to promote freedom of navigation and overflight, build up deterrence, and reassures allies like the Philippines. I'm not even sharing this, am I? I am? I am, okay. I don't know, maybe it's a nothing burger. Let's read a little more. It says, there are fears that the recurring confrontations at Second Thomas Shoal, which lies within the UN-sanctioned Philippine exclusive economic zone, but is claimed by China and surrounded by its flotilla, could ignite an armed conflict pitting the U.S. against China. Philippine officials said Saturday they would never take any step that could ignite a larger conflict, but would not be deterred in defending the country's sovereign rights in the South China Sea. So it sounds like they're trying to make China out to be the bad guy, and they're provoking a situation that could lead to a direct confrontation between China and the United States, dealing with sovereign waters around the Philippines. But we mentioned it before on the show, it's The Philippines might be the new Ukraine. I'm not wishing that on them. I'm hoping that that's not the case, but it's kind of looking like that's the direction it's going into, which would not be good for the Philippines. You see what Ukraine looks like now. Oh, downtown Houston. Did I have, is this the clip I have? Let me check this. I know I have this somewhere. Is this the one? I think this is the one. Let's go to this. But first, let's look at this. It says, former NFL cornerback DJ Hayden and 5 others killed in crash in downtown Houston. It was like somebody ran a red light and hit these guys. Very, very sad. Let's go to it. I think I have a clip here. That guy keeps talking. I'm tired of hearing him talk.
Sounded like 2 trains crashing together. Like, I can still hear the sound in my head. It's nerve-wracking.
At the scene, there were a total of 4 individuals pronounced deceased. An additional 4 individuals were transported to the hospital. 2, since being transported to the hospital, have been pronounced deceased.
This street right here is very dangerous. It's one-way streets. You know, you got double turning lanes that throws people off, especially if they're not from here. Literally, it sounded like 2 trains crashing together. Like, I can still hear the sound in my head. It's nerve-wracking.
At the scene, there were a total of 4 individuals pronounced deceased. An additional 4 individuals were transported to the hospital. 2, since being transported to the hospital, have been pronounced deceased.
This street right here.
It's really, really sad. So ABC 13 posted this. It says, former UH and NFL player DJ Hayden was among the 6 people killed after a driver ran a red light at Fannin and Pierce in downtown Houston, police say. Yeah, man, you have to be really careful driving through downtown, especially at nighttime. Follow the traffic rules. And then that don't even protect you. That's 45 right there. Is that Pierce elevated in the picture? Yeah, it's a bunch of bums in that area. The gentrification hasn't made it over there yet. Really freaking sad. Really freaking sad. You have to be careful, man. Look both ways before you cross the intersection, even if you got a solid green. Really, really sad. It's like, how do you really protect yourself from something like this? You know, you're following the traffic laws and moving along through traffic, and then some guy speeds through the red light and freaking, goodness gracious. How many people was in that car? It must have been 6 people in the car, or is it, they're talking about people in the other car died too. How fast were they going? Let's read some comments. It says, I've been living downtown for 5 years now, and I learned late at night it's best to yield at every intersection. It's ridiculous how often people run lights downtown. Not just downtown either. Like, I live on the southwest side, and people tend to run lights a lot here on the southwest side, even during broad daylight. But at night too, like, and on the weekends it's worse. People coming from the club or whatever, and they're intoxicated and they feel like they're invincible, so they're not worried about flying through freaking red lights. And you know, Houston is a big city. You can't really expect HPD. How can they deal with it? And you know, Texas, we don't like those camera lights where they send you a ticket in the mail. They tried that and people push back on it. I don't like it either. I ain't gonna lie. It's kind of, you know, I don't know. I just don't like it. There's some areas that do have it. I know that they have it in Jersey Village. I want to say that because I got a ticket in Jersey Village, for running a red light. Like barely, I wasn't zooming through red lights like these people here, but I just missed the light or something like that. I think that's the reason why people don't like it, because it's split second. So like the light changes and you are going through the intersection, boom, they take a picture of it's really cool how the technology is though, because it gets it like you can't deny the ticket because the picture it shows you in the driver's seat and it's a picture of your license plate. Like it's like is that you? Yeah, and they mail it to you. They send you the pictures in the mail. And like, hey, you ran this red light. You got a citation. You need to come to court. You need to deal with this citation. But like I say, you can't expect HPD to deal with this. If people just need to be more courteous of each other, I think that's what needs to happen. Like we need to teach each other to be a little more caring of each other. Like, caring of your own life too, because in this situation, I'm willing to bet. I mean, like it's too many people. They said six people passed away. So it's like it had to be people in both vehicles that passed away. Really sad. Another comment, it says, that street is so dangerous. I even get confused in broad daylight, and I'm from Houston. Yeah, we have some really confusing things. It's not just downtown, it's all through Houston. Like what they need to do with that is they need to update the way that the traffic signs are, like the way that they give you indications on the road and give you a backup indication with the lights also, because it's really confusing sometimes, and like they said, I'm from Houston too, born and raised in Houston, and sometimes I get confused. Especially if they make changes, because that's what gets me the most, because I'm a native Houstonian, so I'm used to things being a certain way. And when they go in and make changes, that gets me bad, because I think it's one way because it's been that way for years. And then they've made changes and it's not that way anymore. And I'm freaking out in the middle of traffic or something about to get hit. Take your time, pay attention, they can make it more transparent. Like they can make it more clearer and keeping it from being so confusion. I think like, when I'm driving on 45, really not just 45, but any of the freeways that's going through downtown, like all of our freeways go through downtown. Not all of them, the Beltway doesn't, but all the major highways go through downtown. And when I'm driving through there, the main thing I see on the billboards are for lawyers. And it's for like, if you got into a wreck and all of this, call this lawyer, da, da, da. I don't know. I mean, I hate to be like conspiracy theorist with that, but it seems like, I'm having a hard time saying this because it doesn't taste good coming out of my mouth. But like some of this stuff, I think is kind of set up like, leading to traffic accidents, because there's so much money to be made in these situations. So you have all of this confusion and you end up with these wrecks, and then, you got the vultures come out ready for a payday, It's really sad, like I say, all of the signs are for lawyers. And it's like the way that they put certain street signs up, they block your view, and they build these bushes. They build these bushes right in the worst places ever, where you have a hard time seeing when you're going through intersections, or there's a sign right there and you can't see. Like they should make it a law where you can't obstruct people's view at these intersections with bushes and signs and shit. I don't know if there's something like that on the books. I can't see it being that way because there's so many intersections that are that way where you can't see very well. And again, like I say, this stuff leads to accidents. Certain areas they know are prone to accidents. Like they do the data, they collect the data. And when they've collected the data and there's so many wrecks in the same intersection, then you need to make some kind of changes there. And then in certain neighborhoods too. So, because like when you're in a really nice neighborhood, it's usually like the directions are really clear on the street, the way when they write it down right on the street. Because that's what I tell people when you're learning to drive or whatever. Because you want to go by the signs that are written on the lanes. Those are the most going to be the most accurate and the most easier to read. Because the ones that are on the signs that are up, those are sometimes confusing and sometimes they're wrong. Sometimes they're straight up wrong. But the ones on the street tends to be the most accurate. So like I'm saying though, when you're in nicer areas, it's really plainly written and it's really easy to read, you know. But when you're in the hood, that's not the case, you know. And it's crazy because we don't have the zoning here in Houston, so you can go from a really nice area right into the hood 2 blocks away, and everything is different. Everything becomes more dangerous. Even just driving on the road becomes more dangerous. It's crazy. It's crazy because even these people that live in these nice areas, they have to drive through those hood areas too to get to places where they're going because that's just the way the routes are, you know. But as far as going to their neighborhoods, you know, I noticed the way that they build the streets here in Houston, you know, the streets veer you away from really nice areas. So we have some one of our zip codes, I think, is the richest zip code in the United States, like top 3 or top 5. I know we got like more than one zip code that is like in the top 10 of most, you know, per capita income or whatever. And in those areas, the streets kind of guide you away from those areas. We have these hidden neighborhoods, you know, and it's like you only end up in there if you get lost, really, or you live there and you know, whatever. But the rest of us, you're not going to end up driving through these neighborhoods because the streets are designed to veer you away, to guide you away from those neighborhoods, like, unless you get lost. And you're like, where the hell am I? You're like, wow, it's mansions over here. Like, I didn't know that. Like, I live like 5 blocks down the way. I didn't know it was some mansions over here. It's all hidden. It's behind trees. The streets don't take you there. You know, it is what it is. A couple more comments. It says downtown has the most dangerous red lights in the state of Texas. Another one, it says bunch of ex-players from the University of Houston died in this. Sad. I used to talk to a couple of them after their games. RIP. You know, I'm a University of Houston student. Hopefully I'll be an alumni soon. This is my last year. You know, y'all pray for me. I'm going to have to pay for my classes to get up out of there, out of pocket. So y'all pray for me. It's not going to be easy. I already pay a lot. I moved into this nice apartment. All my money goes to bills now. And now I found out I have to pay for my classes. So like I said, y'all pray for me so I can get this damn degree and get the hell up out of here. But yeah, man, that's why this kind of struck me too, because it's, you know, U of H, it popped up on there. Let's read this. It says June 1st, 2021 at 10:15 a.m. I was 28 weeks pregnant and my 2.5-year-old son was in the car when I was driving southbound Fannin. The red light at West Alabama turned green and I happened to be the first one out of the 4 lanes to go. So the car running the red light from the east T-boned us. My car was my sole income as an Uber Eats driver, and the trauma has affected me and my son ever since. Please drive more carefully, not only downtown and Midtown, but everywhere in Midtown. So what I'll say about this, and I tell my daughter this all the time, I kind of reiterate this with her. It's like, because of the way people drive, like you're a defensive driver. And what I always say, like usually when there's a wreck, it takes 2, you know, unless it's just somebody straight up hitting you from behind. But most of the time you have some kind of opportunity to avoid the wreck. So when you're going through these intersections, like she said, you know, I was the first car through the intersection when it changed. I always hesitate. I used to ride back in the days. I used to get rides with cab drivers all the time. And there was this one cab driver that I would get periodically, and this guy hesitated at every intersection. It didn't matter if it was the light just turned green or it was a solid green. When he goes through the intersection, he would slow down and kind of hesitate. And it was kind of like, it was weird to me. It was like, this dude is being extra over the top. And I thought about it. He must have been through some kind of traumatic event that caused him to drive that way. But I think that's a little bit extra. But if you are the first person, if the light is just now changing because what most people who run the red lights, they're trying to catch the light or whatever, or they know it's turning red and they just want to go through it right, you know, right at that last moment, because most cars haven't had a chance to pull off from their green. There should be more of a gap. Some of the lights don't have that much of a gap, and once the other side turns red, the other one turns green like almost immediately. There's supposed to be a hesitation time there for this reason, to protect people. But even with that hesitation time, like I say, people have that calculated in their mind, and they figure I'm good to drive through this red because those other people aren't going to have a chance to pull off from their green. So with that, knowing that knowledge, when you're pulling off from that green and you're the first car going through the intersection, you want to hesitate a bit. I let the other cars go first. Like they could get hit. Even when I'm in a hurry to get somewhere. I always say you're not gonna make it to your destination if you get into a wreck. Like it's like you're running late and you're driving all fast and stuff. It's like you get into a wreck, you're gonna be more than late. You may not even make it there. Like shit, you might not even be alive. So hesitating to go through the light when it turns green is a good rule of thumb, and I do it every time. I'm born and raised in Houston, so I had to be safe. And I've only had like one wreck I've only had like one wreck, and I drive a lot. I've only had like one wreck my whole life. And that's why I feel like insurance is such a fucking ripoff. You have to pay that shit. I'm paying it forever. It's another damn tax. I don't never get into any wrecks, and I gotta pay this damn insurance every damn month. They should have some kind of deal for people who go like 10 years without getting into a wreck. And I know they have discounts for safe drivers or whatever. They've been advertising that more and more and more. But it's like, I don't know how much of a big difference it really is to the insurance. It's like $100 and something, is the average insurance for just basic liability. And people are paying close to $300 for full coverage. So if you're a safe driver, you haven't gotten into a wreck forever, and then they give you like a discount for safe driver, how much? Y'all leave it in the comments. How much cheaper is your damn, that shit should drop way down. Like, 28, 30, $40 a month or something like that. You don't never get into a wreck. Like, and then after you get into a wreck, I would understand if your insurance went up, but whatever. We get scammed out of everything, man. Tax on tax on tax. Let's read another one. It says, Houston is turning into Los Angeles. Another one says, dangerous, but if everyone will respect the signal lights, that would definitely help a lot as well. It says, R.I.H. Lauren. Another one that says, we need law enforcement to enforce the traffic rules, and these drivers are always running red lights, among other violations, and many times in the cops' noses, and they still don't enforce. It's just a free-for-all in these streets, and not to mention the poorly designed infrastructure. Add trains for commuters and improve the public transit system to keep more people off the roads. Is already so saturated. So that's the real answer right there. Like I say, we're paying all of these taxes to drive the cars. We're getting to wrecks and freaking dying and shit. We're stuck in traffic for hours and hours of our day on our commute all the time. The answer to all of that shit is a better mass transit system. Okay, like all of these cars, like I might cover it, but they're talking about widening 45 now, right around downtown area, and it's like they widened I-10, and now we have the widest freaking freeway in the world, and it's still like a parking lot. Sometimes it's just more cars. Like it's too many cars. I don't care how wide you make the freaking freeway, we're still gonna be in fucking traffic because there's too many cars. So build a better transit system, incentivize people to use it, and get as many of these cars off the road as you can, and then you'll have less situations like this. You'll have less wrecks. And the other part where this person says, talking about the cops don't enforce the traffic laws, man, this is Houston. Like HPD have so much on their plate. They really the coolest ones to get pulled over by. Like, so you get pulled over by the sheriffs or the Harris County constables and stuff, like the constables are gonna nitpick every little thing. I got some tickets recently over some nitpicky shit that they pulled me over for and gave me some tickets for. But the same stuff, HPD is not, they got too much on their plate. Like Houston is what, fourth largest city in the United States? We have some serious ass shit that be going on all the time here. Like the HPD do not have time to deal with some damn traffic violations when it's someone getting killed and stabbed and robbed and, you know, domestic violence, like crackheads, like, you know, drug overdoses, suicides. Like this stuff is happening back to 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 back. They don't have time to deal with no freaking traffic law. So that's not the answer. Just you know, first off, create a better infrastructure leading in the direction of, you know, high-speed trains and build the cities around that and sell it to the people. Because here it's like Texas, we love our cars. It's like trying to get us to drive a ride in the train is hard. But then if the trains were way more convenient, it saved us a lot of time, you know, and was safe and all of that, it would, I think it would force a lot of us. It would just be common sense, so we would just use it. But the transit system that we have here barely covers a part of the city, you know. I mean, it does run efficiently. It just doesn't go very far, you know. I mean, if you work in the medical district or something, I could see it being useful to you. But other than that, I don't even see it being useful to you. It doesn't go anywhere. We're too spread out. We're like a sprawl city. Like we could build the city differently, you know, make adjustments to the way we do new buildings, and we build it around the, you know, the idea of creating more high-speed rails that can get us around the city efficiently. I don't know if it'll ever, I mean, at some point it's going to happen just because it's common sense, but in my lifetime, I don't see it. Couple more. It says, I still make sure I look all ways before going, even when the green light says go. People drive crazy and don't stop at stoplights. So sad. That's what I was saying. RP DJ Hayden says, damn, I'm so sick of this type of news. It says, prayers to the families. It's scary how much people don't respect traffic signals or signs anymore. Like not stopping can literally kill someone. And it's not like you're at the light for more than 5 minutes. Shaking my damn head. Really, really sad. Nobody cares about nothing. They don't even care about their own freaking life. How can you motivate them to do right? They don't even care about their own life. God. Let's see. What do we want to go into? Let's scroll Twitter. I know that the subject of the show is going to pop up and then we're going to go into it. So let's just start going down that direction. Can y'all hear me? Let's just start going down that direction. I came in late, so I probably won't get Pat. Hopefully we'll get Doc come in later after he gets through driving.
But 20 years ago.
So 10 minutes. I don't know if I'm going to play this whole thing. It says, those who sanctioned and orchestrated the illegitimate Iraq war are still living a life of influence and luxury. Meanwhile, Julian Assange remains in prison for highlighting the illegitimacy. It's an ill-divided world. So yeah, this is kind of on the topic of the show as far as free speech is dead. And here is one example related to Julian Assange, because all he did was publish information, and this information was all true. It was all true. They couldn't get him on saying anything that wasn't true. He wasn't lying. He wasn't liable to anyone. He didn't do anything actually illegal. So it's like they're charging him. They're trying to get him on the Espionage Act. I want to say that's what it is, and it's some archaic ass law that came out with years and years ago that hasn't been used in forever, and they're using it on him. And really, they've already destroyed his life because they destroyed his career, and froze his bank accounts, and then he was stuck in the embassy for the longest. And then I want to say he went to another embassy. And they stabbed him in the back, and they're still trying to extradite him and bring him to the United States. And it may happen. When he comes to the United States, he's going to have to face these charges. And basically, like I say, they've already ruined his life because he's basically been locked up. I don't know how many years it's been now. A long time, like 8 years or something like that. It's been a really long time since he hasn't been able to move around, even though he hasn't even been charged with anything. And, like I say, free speech is dead, and Julian Assange is one of the examples of it. What they do to you nowadays, if you say something that they don't want you to say.
The US and UK invaded Iraq. Today, Tony Blair is free to go on television, has made a huge amount of money, the same with George Bush. At the same time, Julian Assange languishes in Belmarsh prison because he told the truth about this war.
Light them all up.
There is something deeply wrong with the society with those kind of priorities. When you look at the people who brought us the war in Iraq, the people who used everything at their disposal, the state machine, parliament, the media, when you look at what all those people did, nobody has faced any of the consequences. Even when the Chilcot report reported, Tony Blair set up his own press conference, paid for by the immense wealth which he now has, the many houses that he has. He was made envoy for peace in the Middle East. He was given a knighthood last year. Whereas all the people who told the truth about the war, the people who marched, what happened to them? The Muslim community penalised by the PREVENT system for telling the truth and for standing up for their rights. The people like Julian Assange, imprisoned in Belmarsh for all these years for telling the truth. I remember Tony Blair, the day of February the 15th, when we had so many people marching in London. He said, even if 1 million people march in London, that's not as many as Saddam Hussein killed. Well, the war in Iraq ended up killing more people. He talked about human rights. This is about democracy. It's about getting rid of a dictatorship. After he stopped being prime minister, what did he spend his time doing? Advising dictators. The truth is, all of these were lies. All of them were things where they said, we are going to make things better, and actually they made it worse. And not just in Iraq. In the last 20 years, armament worldwide, amount of money spent on military has doubled. Nearly $2 trillion are now spent on arms every year, making the world a much more dangerous place. We've now got conflict, not just between dictator in the Middle East and the biggest imperial power in the world, the United States. We've now got effectively a proxy war in Ukraine between two major imperial powers, and both of them with nuclear arms. We've got the much more real possibility of war with China. Again, this will be a nuclear war, and therefore the devastation of humanity. So exactly the opposite of what we were told 20 years ago has turned out to be the case. It's a more dangerous world. Iraq's a much more dangerous place. We have far more refugees than we had then. Taliban in Afghanistan back in control. Terrorism has grown. And indeed, where did ISIS and Al-Qaeda come from? Well, in Iraq, they came from British-occupied Basra province, where they were formed in prison, where many Iraqis were imprisoned. And the shameful thing is that the people who created the war are still being given awards, are still making huge amounts of money, and in the case of Tony Blair, is still being invited onto the BBC to give his views on absolutely everything, instead of being in the dock at The Hague, which is where I think most people in Britain would like him to be. From the very beginning.
Yeah, they gave Obama a Nobel Peace Prize, right? They give these people prizes. These people tend to get rich. George H.W. Bush got ridiculously rich out of a lot of this stuff. Like, this guy, this dude was like the Don Dada, man. George W. Bush's dad, George Bush Sr. This dude was the orchestrator of a lot of this stuff. And, you had Dick Cheney, who was the vice president with George W. Bush, the the son, and he had so many interests in Halliburton. Like he directly, his companies directly benefited from these situations. And like I say, none of these, like she's saying, none of these people have been held accountable. They just got rich and they got to live their life. And even though we know all of the stuff they said was lies, it has come out now. And, nobody's held accountable. But Julian Assange brings out some information and brings it to the American people's point, in front of their eyes so they can see. And he's the one that's held accountable.
From the time he went to Bush's ranch in the spring of 2002, Tony Blair was absolutely fully committed to every aspect of the war in Iraq. He lied about the existence of weapons of mass destruction, which had never been found because they didn't exist. And there were all sorts of people who said so at the time, including the UN weapons inspectors, who you might think would be people who did have some particular knowledge about this. This was all dismissed by Blair, by Alistair Campbell, when they devised a dossier. And this is the man who promoted the dossier. It was over the Evening Standard that day. Iraq can attack Britain in 45 minutes. I think a period of silence from Alistair Campbell would be welcomed by everybody, instead of which he seems to be in podcasts and on couches all over the TV studios. This tells you something about the lack of integrity and the lack of morals of so much of our media coverage.
And it seems like people have like a really short memory. Like they just be like, man, you bring this up and people are like, yeah, it's the ones that know. They're like, yeah, it's true. And they're like, man, it's like, what are you going to do about it? Like, bro, like this kind of shit should, like millions of people died. They lied to us. Our military went to wars behind lies. People's, even the ones who didn't die, their lives was messed up. They come back with PTSD and, they're shell shocked. They got mental issues. They're hooked on drugs, and people are like, meh.
I think the media role was very, very important. And again, that hasn't really been held to account at all. If you look at the broadcast media, particularly the BBC, it was an absolute disgrace. I remember Andrew Marr, who was the political correspondent, who just after the war started said Tony Blair had won this argument.
He said that they would be able to take Baghdad without a bloodbath and that in the end, the Iraqis would be celebrating. And on both of those points, he has been proved conclusively right. And it would be entirely ungracious, even for his critics, not to acknowledge that tonight he stands as a larger man and a stronger prime minister as a result.
20 years on, this is so important because it's not just about the past, it's not just about the present, it's also about the future. And this question of war is going to become a bigger and bigger question over the next 2 or 3 years.
That's for sure. And how come they can get away with this? I mean, not only the war hawks and stuff that got away with it, like the politicians and stuff, but when the media was on board with them and, some of these people really knew what the truth was and they were straight up lying, I mean, is there anything that we could do? Like these media organizations, if they're not printing the truth, at the very least, I think criminal charges should happen, but they should go out of business. Let smaller publications get big, the ones that tell the truth, and squash them out, make them pay fines or something so that they can freaking go out of business. They keep on lying.
The Project for a New American Century was essentially about trying to redraw the world on pro-US lines. American hegemony had to be maintained and had to be extended. Many of Bush's key advisors were people who were part of that project. They could see that China was a rising power. It's a rising power economically. It was also becoming a major military power. China is today the second biggest military power in the world. It has long been a permanent member of the UN Security Council, and it has long been a nuclear power. So the project saw the threat of China as a very real one. And they wanted to change the politics of the Far East, of the Pacific, in terms of the rise of China and to strengthen the United States in that region. They also wanted to redraw the politics of the Middle East, and that particularly meant boosting Saudi Arabia and Israel as their two closest allies in the region against Iraq and against Iran, and that's a policy that's continued. The Middle East itself, there are very few democratic governments, and that is to do with the way in which imperial powers decided on a particular form of government which really didn't care about democracy. They were concerned with having regimes which were closely connected to them politically, economically, and militarily. And that
And the United States is always talking about we're spreading democracy, but we're cool with these countries. Like Saudi Arabia is an example. Like, how democratic is Saudi Arabia? Like, on paper or in any way, practically, theoretically, actually, you know, and as far as human rights abuses, like the whole reason why they go after these people and say that they're you know, they're a dictator and they're abusing their people and it's countless human rights abuses. So the United States have to get involved and do a regime change or whatever. And that's how they sell it to the American people. But, you know, these people that are closest allies are known for countless human rights abuses and undemocratic ways of doing things and abusing their people. So like their argument or what they're saying is definitely not what it is. And it's crazy how, you know, they say that to us and we take it in to be truth. And nothing, like the evidence doesn't support it.
That's what's been created. Yes, Saddam Hussein was a dictator. He was a dictator who was put into power through the acts of the United States, but he was by no means unique in that region. Saudi Arabia, for example, has been engaged in a war against Yemen for 7 years. No question about regime change. The murder of a journalist carried out at the behest of members of the Saudi royal family. Nothing is done. You know, we're talking here.
Do y'all remember that? That's the Khashoggi thing. And we have so much evidence that came out with that guy came out and body parts came out. He was an American citizen. He was a journalist and he was killed, you know, from orders directly from the Crown Prince, Saudi Arabia. And we know all of this to be true. And we're still cool and cozy with Saudi Arabia. You know, if it was another country that had done that, we would have went in and blowed them to pieces. That, you know, like no one has been held accountable for that Khashoggi thing. That's crazy. And America's like, we're so big and bad, nobody mess with us and leave our citizens alone or whatever. Like, innocent as civilian American citizen chopped up, and we got evidence of it, and we don't hold nobody accountable.
About extremely undemocratic states. The British government, the United States governments are perfectly happy to work with those people as long as they keep the area secure for oil profits. That's the bottom line. We had many Iraqis in this country who campaigned with us against the war in Iraq, not because they liked Saddam. Actually, they had suffered, they'd been put in prison, they'd suffered terrible torture, they'd suffered all sorts of things at his hands. So they knew exactly what was going on, but they also knew that the war was not going to make it better for ordinary Iraqis. Actually, it would mean, as it has meant, a breakup of the country, a complete destruction of lives, of livelihoods, of huge numbers of refugees who are treated appallingly when they get to any of the countries that were involved in the war.
And Iraq is a mess right now, still today.
The impact of things like depleted uranium, all sorts of terrible things that the Iraqi...
Saudi Arabia is a mess. I mean, not Saudi Arabia. Afghanistan is a mess right now, still. Libya is a mess after they got rid of Gaddafi. It didn't help these people. And the whole thing was that they were trying to help the people. Like, that was the reason why they were doing it. But the results is not that.
People who suffered. Perhaps the most shocking one was the revelation of what happened in the Iraqi prison of Abu Ghraib, where American troops were torturing people, were photographing them in the most degrading way, were treating them like animals, were doing all these sorts of things. This is not only in contravention of every international legal agreement about the way in which prisoners of war, or indeed any prisoners, should be treated. It also told you exactly what the occupation was about. The occupation was about repression and cruelty and putting down the people who dared to stand up against the American invasion. And Abu Ghraib showed that in the most horrific terms. But you know, you can't separate a brutal war, shock and awe, the bombing of cities which took place, the invasion, the cruelty, the siege of Fallujah, all these things that went on. You can't separate that from the repression that followed. They're very much part of the same thing. And if you're invading a country and occupying a country, one of the things you have to do is to dehumanize the population that you're occupying, because you have to justify what you're doing. And that's what they did. War is embedded in the kind of society we live in. We live in a society which is imperialist, which is about conquering other countries and extracting money from other countries. We live in a society where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. So they don't care about whether your hospital is crumbling. They don't care if the roof of your children's school is leaking. They don't care if you can't afford to heat or eat and you have to choose, or maybe these days you can't even afford both. They really don't care about those things. What they do care about is preserving their wealth and power and their ability to spread that wealth and power. And war and weapons are absolutely central to their ability to do so. This is locked into their system, and that's why they do it. And that's why we have to fight against it.
Yeah, but what are we gonna do? Like she said, it's baked into the system. It's like we don't manufacture hardly anything, you know, well, weapons, you know. So it's like people talk about GDP, they talk about the economy, you know, and there's no question why so much money goes to the military-industrial complex. What people don't really understand, a lot of people don't understand, is like when they talk about all the money going to Ukraine, a lot of that money isn't going to Ukraine. It's going to independent contractors. It's you know, a lot of it is going to American companies, you know. So it's like a piggy bank. It's like the taxpayers, the money that we pay in taxes is a piggy bank for American companies, you know, that they could just tap into whenever. Like they get these government contracts and the money just flows to them. And, you know, like I say, these are American companies, but what people don't understand is these companies don't have they're not nationalists or whatever. Like they don't care about the United States just because the United States is their home base or whatever. Like they don't have any real alliances with the United States like that, you know. Like people don't. Sometimes it's hard to understand this, but it's like they just want to make money. So however they're making the money is what's important to them, you know. But being that they have that distinction of being a United States company, then they get to be in first place when it's time to hand out these government contracts, you know. But these are just private organizations making money off of the government, you know. So whenever it's war, it's good times for them, you know. They get to sell more weapons. They get to sell more, you know, bullets, vests, you know, helmets, rifles, ready-to-eat meals. I mean, you name it. So it's a huge part of our economy. So it's one hand washes the other. It's what keeps it going. You know, we want to make money. So, you know, more wars, more conflict, you know, and it's like once you start going down this road, it's like, how are you going to go in another way? We would have to dramatically change, you know, how we make money. Like we'd have to start manufacturing things that aren't weapons, you know, and be able to export those things around the world instead of weapons, bombs, aircraft. I feel like I'm rambling, Let's read some tweet replies. It says Congress put their money in weapon stocks. In addition to the money from the APEC lobby, Biden alone got 4 million plus. Then there's the untouched oil by Gaza coast. People think this is about Hamas. And I was covering that. So yeah, so then they're putting investments. They already know that these companies are going to make money because they are the same ones who make the decisions on giving those people money. So that's corruption at the highest level. You know, the Congress people, they really shouldn't be able to buy and sell and trade stocks if these stocks have anything to do with stuff that comes across their desk, decisions, stuff that they vote on. This kind of takes my breath away. I get twisted. My words get twisted because there's so much that it's like they lie to us about, and people are so into it and they just take it in. It says oil and natural gas resources in the occupied Palestinian territory could generate hundreds of billions of dollars for development. Geologists and resources economists have confirmed that the occupied Palestinian territory lies above sizable reserves of oil and natural gas wealth in Area C of the West Bank and the Mediterranean coast off the Gaza Strip, according to a recent study. New discoveries of natural gas in the Levant Basin are in the range of 122 trillion cubic foot, while recoverable oil is estimated at 1.7 billion barrels, according to the study entitled The Economic Cost of Occupation of the Palestinian People. The unrealized oil and natural gas potential. This offers an opportunity to distribute and share about US 524 billion among the different parties in the region and promote peace and cooperation among old belligerents, the study notes. So yeah, I pretty much covered that pretty thoroughly in another show. Let's read some more. It says, don't forget the others living in Texas and Wyoming. What is he talking about? What is he talking about? Another one that says, yeah, buddy, when wasn't it also free Assange now? So wrong. In agreement, absolutely. Peacemakers. It's another one that says, it's time for citizens of the world to empower themselves with their own justice team and military, powered and endorsed by the people. After all, it's a democracy, right? Government by and for the people. So what's stopping the people from crowd sponsoring a global intelligence authority? That's really interesting right there. You know, at the end of the day, we have more money than them if we can pool it together. But scary, scary times. I mean, vigilante justice, you know that it's private. I was covering something where they said in the future, you could have corporations fighting against other corporations and with armies, because they can build armies, private armies. And you kind of have that kind of thing already kind of happening, these independent contractors, they just want to get paid. They're going to fight for whoever. So if let's say it's Better Petroleum, BP or whatever, and they got some kind of situation going on. So then they freaking hire, what are they called? I want to say BlackRock, but that's not it. It's damn it, I can't think of the names right now. Like just basically hiring an independent contractor to fight, on behalf of the company. So you'll have wars going on. It won't be a country versus a country. It'll be Apple versus Huawei or something like that. Crazy, crazy times. Talk about Mad Max, global Mad Max. I'm losing my train of thought. It says, if Julian Assange had the Epstein list, he would have been executed by now. It says, if Julian Assange had the Epstein list, he would have been executed by now. Free Assange, release the list. Another comment, it says, never in my life would I have ever expected to see a man sent to prison for having told the truth about others' crimes. What a travesty of justice. That's how you know you ran by criminals, when they're always talking about who was the whistleblower, like who snitched, not who did something wrong and what they did wrong, and are we going to hold them accountable? No, who snitched. That's a criminal organization right there, who's more concerned about who snitched. So might as well be the mafia. Like, get that dude. And that's how they were talking about Julian Assange too. It's like, we got to get him. We got to get him. He snitched. Another comment, it says, Blair should be serving a long stretch inside. Instead, he's living it up and raking in more cash than he knows what to do with. Another one, it says, the strongest win is one of the laws of God, but it's not the only one. If you persevere and pray and fast, and God will make justice come. Man, I wish and pray that was true. You know, unfortunately, it's just not. You know, the bad guys are winning left and right. The good guys are praying at home and getting blowed up. Another comment says, still, you got to admit those two don't look as good without their souls. You know, I was thinking about that too. And it's like how people who win, you know, like I say, the bad guys tend to win, you know, and I look around, I look at my life and I look at the things that I've been through, and I'm like, it's like, it looks like they won, but they're hollow inside. They're so hollow inside, they can't even enjoy the fruits of the stuff. Like they have unlimited everything. They have the plush luxury, you know, they have the lives that the rest of the world dreams about having, but they don't enjoy any of it. You know, they can't enjoy any of it because they're like empty inside. They don't feel anything. They're you know, they got a hole in them. They're missing their empathy. They're missing their humanity. So if you know what they say, what is it? A man gains the whole world but loses his soul. It's like, you know, if you had to lose your humanity to get the things that you needed, then you didn't win. You lost, because you lost your humanity, and you don't really enjoy life. Like someone who's just a regular Joe Blow working a 9 to 5, just making ends meet, you know, is living a better life than these people, because he still has humanity. He can still feel, he can still love, he can still be loved. He still has real relationships with people, genuine relationships with people. And everything isn't just about money and acting and putting on a face and wearing a mask and pretending, you know. It's like they pretend to be so happy, like their freaking Tesla makes them happy, you know. Their vacations they take throughout the year, you know, is what makes them happy. But they're getting these phone calls though about atrocious things happening. Like nobody cares about them, nobody loves them, they can't trust anyone. Even their family is trying to, you know, waiting for them to die so they can get an inheritance. Like I don't want to be them. I don't envy them at all. Even though I'm struggling over here, you know, check to check, I don't want to be those people. From the outside looking in, it looks great, but I'm willing to bet that, you know, they got some empty households, you know, eating alone, you know, no phone calls, no emails, no text messages from anyone that's just asking them how they're doing or how they feel or whatever, you know, no love. It says, such a great and informative presentation. Another one that says, so much for freedom and democracy. Travesty. Let's move on. Yeah, free speech is dead. And Julian Assange is a good example of that. So we have more and more evidence. This one, it says, International Federation of Journalist Leaders call to free Julian Assange, whose persecution is a threat to all journalists. And that's what I would think. You would think that all of the rest of the journalists would get on board with protecting Julian Assange, because if they come, he was only just doing real journalism. That's why we don't have any more real journalists anymore. Because if you do real journalism, they do you like they did Assange. But you would think that all of the people out here doing journalism would be backing this guy up because they could be next. The UK approved Julian Assange's extradition to the US to face charges for releasing US government records revealing US war crimes. They approved his extradition. June 17, 2022. It says, if found guilty, Assange faces a jail term of up to 175 years. It says, our leaders are launching a campaign to call for his immediate release.
Quand vous dénoncez un crime et que vous êtes traité de criminel, c'est que...
It says, when you denounce a crime and you are called a criminal, it means the government itself is criminal.
Le gouvernement est criminel.
Punishing Assange for exposing war crimes poses a threat to all journalists worldwide.
All journalists worldwide.
Porque lo que se está afectando.
It says, what is being affected is your right to know.
Es tu derecho a saber.
This bad decision by the British government is good news for all autocracies and enemies of freedom of the press.
Assange committed no crime. He was only doing his job.
The time is now for Australia's new government to lobby our key allies, particularly the United States President Joe Biden, to drop these charges. Press freedom depends on it.
Yep, freedom of speech is dead. Press freedom is dead. Actual real news, that's truth. Truth is dead. Let's see this one. It says, Elon Musk is such a fan of Tucker Carlson now. Like, I guess since Tucker is on X, on Twitter now, so it's probably making Elon Musk a lot of money. So I noticed that Elon be retweeting Tucker's show all the time. So, like, yeah, it's probably his big cash cow on on X now. And it was a really smart move, I think, for even though, basically Tucker got fired, you could say, but he gets to say what he wants to say now, like more freely, So I think that this was a win-win for him. And it's definitely good for Twitter because they get to be more legitimate, like a major media outlet. So check this out. It says, whether or not you agree with the judgment, it's worth understanding this issue. Episode 38, the First Amendment is done. See, this is what we're talking about here. We're talking about, free speech is dead. It says, the First Amendment is done. Douglas Mackey is about to go to prison for mocking Hillary Clinton on the internet. We talked to him right before his sentencing. Remember, as you watch, that this could be you. So we're going to skip through this, but let's play the beginning of it.
If someone had told you even 10 years ago that you could be indicted by the federal government and go to prison for 10 years for making fun of Hillary Clinton on social media, you would not have believed it. It's a free country. We have free speech. But it turns out not only is that possible, it is likely to become much more common because the actual war is over information. One of its first casualties is a man called Doug Mackey, who during the 2016 election made fun of Hillary Clinton on Twitter. and then a few years later found himself the subject of a federal raid, an indictment, and then a conviction. It's a shocking story. It's hard to believe it's happening in this country, but it is. And to prove it, Doug Mackey joins us now. Doug, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Tucker.
So I've never even seen you in person before. You have not, I don't think, spoken about this publicly, or at least very often, since it happened. So give us just a quick background on who you are.
Man, and how powerful is Hillary Clinton and a Democratic machine? Because the Julian Assange thing was making the Democrats look bad. And they went in on him. And then you have to think about the bipartisan nature of this whole thing. So then they went after the Democrats and Hillary Clinton, but the rest of Congress is obviously backing them up on this, you know? And that's why I kind of wanted to cover this, because Rashida Tlaib got censored recently, and it's like the Republicans are all about free speech, right? They're all about not canceling people. I thought it was the left. I thought it was the Democrats who were all about censoring people and taking people's their First Amendment rights away. But now things have changed, and it's looking like the Republicans are on board with this too.
Read, I think, in BuzzFeed that you were a dangerous white nationalist militant. Are you?
No, not at all.
You don't seem it. Where are you from?
I grew up in Vermont.
In Vermont?
Yes.
Not a hotbed of white nationalist militancy. And where'd you go to college? What were you doing during the 2016 election, et cetera?
I graduated from Middlebury College, which is also in Vermont.
Yep.
And then I moved to New York. I lived there about 6 years. That's where I was at the time of the election, the 2016 election.
What were you doing?
So I had just left my job, but I was previously an economic researcher.
Huh. So first, like a Wall Street firm or something like that?
Something like that, corporate America.
Yes. So what were you doing during the 2016 election?
So I was posting a lot of stuff on Twitter under a pseudonym about the election.
What kind of stuff?
Pro-Trump memes, jokes, all kinds of links, that kind of thing.
Why were you doing that?
Just purely out of passion.
Oh, so you like Trump?
I like Trump. That's right.
Why?
I thought he was a breath of fresh air for the country. I think that his analysis of the problems with the country, with the ruling class of the country, I liked what he was saying, and I thought he had a positive vision for the country.
Where were you politically before the 2016 election?
I was sort of conservative. Previously, I was sort of libertarian. But earlier in my life, I was sort of apolitical.
So you weren't a lifelong political activist?
No.
But you got excited about Trump and you decided to support him on social media. At the time, did you think that was your constitutional right?
Yes, absolutely.
Why'd you think that?
Well, I thought that this was America. I thought that we had a First Amendment.
Okay.
Due process rights.
Yeah, well, obviously you was wrong about that, buddy. Let's skip to 3. Oh, it's almost to there.
That we could criticize people in our ruling class.
It looks like you thought wrong. So let's get specific about what you did, the crimes, the felonies that you committed on Twitter. I want to put this up. You posted this on Twitter. This is a meme. It says, "Save time, avoid the line, vote from home." And it's got a picture of Hillary Clinton. Text Hillary to this number. Did you make this meme?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't create this?
No.
Where'd it come from?
I found it on 4chan.
Okay, so it was floating around the internet.
Yeah, these kind of memes were floating all over the place.
And you posted it on Twitter. What was the point of that?
Well, pardon my French, but it was called a shit post.
Yeah.
We talked about this a lot at the trial. I testified. Just sort of a joke, rile up everybody, muddy the waters. And mostly just because I thought my audience would find it funny.
He seems kind of stiff. He's kind of scared. Maybe shell-shocked for being there with Tucker.
Did they?
Yeah, absolutely.
I find it hilarious. You're obviously from Northern New England. You have a very dry sense of humor.
Very dry.
Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed that. So Did you get a sense when you posted that that was a crime, or that it would be perceived as a crime?
No, absolutely not.
So we have to, and I want to play this. This is from Hillary Clinton. This is from this April, so long after you were indicted, long after you went on trial. And this is Hillary Clinton describing that meme.
There was just a trial in Brooklyn where a guy who had been one of the main, I guess he was one of the main people running memes against me in 2016. He went from what you could consider free speech. I mean, both Nancy and I have pretty thick skins. People say all kinds of things about us. But he went from that to running a very deliberate effort to mislead people about where and how to vote. So it went from speech to action meant to subvert the election, because thousands of people who they targeted through their algorithms, I can text my vote for Hillary Clinton.
So Hillary Clinton, I want to deconstruct that in some greater detail in a minute, but Hillary Clinton apparently took that very seriously. You were using quote, algorithms to subvert the election with that meme.
I don't even really know what she means by that.
And how ignorant can people be? Like, they should know that you can't text your vote. Like, we don't have any kind of systems in place like that. So, like, I mean, I think it would be dishonest I was saying in the other show, like, parody is dangerous nowadays because people are so ignorant that they don't know, like, the Onion's headlines are just parody, and they take them for, an actual real headline. And so then these people who were apparently, looking at this guy's memes or whatever, following him on, and when he posts something that says you can text Hillary at this number and you can text in your vote, they took it serious. Like, oh man, like, I don't know how we got here to the point where people, are people really that ignorant?
I don't know how, I guess you post something and it gets taken up into algorithms. I'm not exactly sure. I was surprised that she said that.
Did you have personal algorithms that you used?
No.
Okay.
No, it's just copy, paste, and click a button.
Yeah. So like everyone else on social media, you see something funny, you post it.
That's right.
Okay. So describe the rest of your career on Twitter. So you're enthusiastic about Trump. I assume, are you being paid to post these things?
No.
No. Nobody's
paying me.
You're just a random guy who's amusing the hell out of yourself by pushing your candidate on social media.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So then what happens? How long were you on Twitter?
Until 2018, mid 2018.
Okay. But this criminal tweet is from 2016. Okay.
November.
So at any point, did you think that you committed a crime or that others would think that you committed a crime?
No.
When did you discover that you were considered a felon by the U.S. government?
Well, I had 8 to 10 law enforcement agents come and knock on my door at 7 a.m. 7 days after Joe Biden was inaugurated.
Did you have any warning that this was coming?
No, no warning.
So what were you doing at 7 in the morning?
I was sleeping.
So you're asleep, you hear a knock, and then what happens?
And then the FBI, are you Doug Mackey? Yes. What's going on? Like, I asked them, they said, we have a warrant for your arrest. I said, what for? For what? They didn't tell me until I got to the courthouse.
Did they cuff you?
Yes.
The FBI threw handcuffs on you at your home at 7 in the morning and didn't tell you why?
Yes.
Did you have any idea why?
That's common.
No, I had no idea.
What was going through your mind?
I knew that politicians could be vindictive, and the federal government sometimes could be influenced by those politicians, and I know that they can sort of get very creative with federal statutes. So if I was the enemy of their candidate, then I thought maybe they could cook something up.
But this was an entire election cycle later.
That was the weird part. But I knew that we had just had a transition presidents. So
7 days after Biden gets inaugurated, you get arrested for a tweet
4 years
before.
earlier. Yeah.
What was your reaction?
Arrested for a tweet. That's crazy. So yeah, free speech is dead. Let's read some tweet replies on this. It says, the worst part about this is Republicans in Congress are letting the abuse of power continue. They could defund the DOJ. They could block everything Biden does, but they're spineless, so they just let the Democrats steamroll them. I'm sick of the GOP. I don't know if they have this much power that this guy is saying, you know, they can block everything that Biden does. I don't know that they can do that. You know, it's all about who has the majority, who has the votes. It's a little more complicated than that. But I agree with what he's saying. They are kind of letting the abuse of power continue because, you know, they are on board with censoring Rashida Tlaib. So it's like, if you stand on free speech, then you have to stand on it no matter who it is that's speaking and no matter what it is that they're saying. You know, you're standing on the principle of the First Amendment. You can't be wishy-washy on that and change your mind because somebody is saying something that you don't like, or it's coming from someone that you don't like, or whatever. That's the whole point of the whole thing. So, you know, I think the Republicans are losing it when it comes to that. We already know the Democrats be on board with that. So we should have someone pushing back against the Democrats related to this, but it's not happening. Let's read another one. It says, all I'm saying is if someone actually thought they could text their vote, they shouldn't be voting. That's kind of what I said. Come on, man. Come on. Let's play this Hillary Clinton clip. I don't know what this is.
It's not enough for America's future that some participate and others don't. We have been given an extraordinary blessing. And at this moment in time, our country needs us. And we need people like George Soros, who is fearless and willing to step up when it counts. So please join me in welcoming George Soros.
It is the first time that I feel that I need to stand up and do something really and become really engaged in the electoral process in this country.
It's not enough for America's future that some participate and others don't. We have been given an extraordinary...
That some participate and some don't. And then she goes on to introduce George Soros, who says, you know, I feel like I have to get involved. So it's like his power, his influence, his money, you know, it's outweighing the rest of us, right? You know, and isn't George Soros Jewish? I mean, I don't know. I'm just to throw that out there. A couple more comments. It says Free Mackey. Says Douglas Mackey did nothing wrong. Yeah, this guy did a tweet and he's got felony charges. So Benjamin Franklin, it says, whoever would overthrow the liberty of a nation must begin by subduing the freeness of speech. Ooh. Whoever would overthrow the liberty of a nation must begin by subduing the freeness of speech. Yeah, so once you start going down that road of not being able to say certain things and going to jail for it, then you're going down that road of the nation, you know, the liberty of the nation being overthrown, basically, is what that is saying. This one, it says, I do not understand how Americans are going to prison for memes. I am watching this while I'm in Taiwan in an expert assignment. No, in Taiwan on an expat assignment. This is terrifying. What happened to freedom of speech? What is going on? And you know, they ramped this whole thing up too during COVID. Like, I'm afraid of what I say. Like, I'm here on YouTube right now, and because I'm broadcasting on YouTube, I'm always being very careful about what I say, because ever since COVID, they come down really hard on people, and you know, they kick them off of YouTube and stuff like that. That's kind of why I'm on right now. I'm broadcasting on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Rumble. You know, and a lot of people have moved over to Rumble and other sites because they can't say what they want to say on YouTube. And but that's where I get most of my views from, is YouTube. And so not being able to broadcast on YouTube will limit the audience that I can have available. So because of that, it's like I'm self-censoring myself to keep from saying certain things, because I know that YouTube is going to come down on me, you know? And so this is where we are. So, you know, just saying regular stuff about the jab, like people don't even use the same words. Like we don't even want to mention when we say the pandemic, but we don't say the name. We say jab instead of, you know, the other words for it. We dodge this, you know, because the algorithm picks it up. And then once the algorithm picks it up, then they do their little investigation or whatever. And if they feel like you're giving medical misinformation, whatever deems, you know, they deem it, you know, medical information by their own parameters, which is opaque and not very clear. And you know, you get held accountable for it. So just being deplatformed is one thing, but getting felony charges is a whole nother. Like, you got whole website, whole YouTube pages that got deleted and stuff. Like RT is gone. You know, there was a show that I used to watch, and they deleted the dude's whole page and all of the videos that was there. You can't even go and watch the old videos, stuff that didn't have anything to do with, you know, what they would call medical misinformation. Like, this is where we are now. Let's read some more. It says Douglas Mackey made some memes and is going to federal prison. Hillary Clinton helped carry out the biggest political spying operation in American history, and her only punishment was a fine from the FEC. See the difference? It says Free Doug. It says, I would talk about Hillary Clinton too much. She might know where you live. Scary, man. I mean, freaking, yeah, like I say, look how powerful the Democratic machine is, and Hillary Clinton is. Like, talk bad about Hillary Clinton and you got a freaking felony charge 4 years after the fact. So then I think that one of the things that this guy was kind of hinting in was because it was right after the inauguration of Biden, and, you know, Trump was in there before. So it's like, so they were waiting for Trump to not be in there anymore so that they can persecute these people. That's what it seems like. So it seems really political, like politically motivated, like a, you know, a political attack. I played this clip right here sometime before on the show. The guy, he was talking about his meds and how freaking retarded our healthcare system is and all the drama that he's going through related to that. I don't know if I want to go down that emotional roller coaster right now. Like, that's going to put me in my feelings. But let's read this. It says, billions sent to foreign wars while our veterans suffer. This Veterans Day, please take a minute of your time and sign a letter demanding Congress pass Veterans Choice Act to give vets access to private care. Yeah, so this guy, he was really upset, and he was just talking about how, like, you know, his psych meds that he needed and them changing the doctors, and then he's got to start over and tell his stories again, just because like some stupid ass freaking bureaucracy related to his healthcare coverage. Really, really dumb stuff. Our system is terrible. Like they don't even take care of they don't take care of anybody. They don't take care of the vets either. Let's go ahead and play a little bit of this. If y'all didn't prepare yourself, if you haven't seen it.
And he didn't expect that.
7 times over the course of the last 6 years, dude. The VA has continued to let me down. I just want some continuity of care with mental health providers. These doctors keep quitting, they keep switching. And then the one doctor that I really liked, who talked me off a ledge the last time, refused. I had a split because they fell in a network, and then they came back in a network. So I went the last 2 years dealing with my own demons myself and trying to hold it together. And then come to find out, it's like May. It's like late May, and he denied taking my case back. April 12th, and I'm just finding out, dude. And now I gotta go back to some new doctor, and then I gotta open Pandora's box again because they're gonna want to know everything, and then I'm gonna have to live through working through that for a month. I just want some continuity of care, dude. I'm fucking so tired of it. I just want to be able to talk to the same person and have the same individual manage my goddamn meds. I've been off all my medications for 2 years. I've been doing all my
just white knuckling.
Oh man, I'm just white knuckling. I'm gripping. Jesus, I'm so tired of it. It's not a lot to ask. I just want to be able to talk to the same person and not continue to have to retell these fucking stories that torment me. I fucking get it now. I really do. I just want some continuity of fucking care.
Yeah, man. I wonder where this dude is now, man. I hope he's okay. Like, it's really sad, man. They don't care about nothing. This one, it says, it's truly frightening what America has become under the Biden regime. Vote for Trump in 2024 like your life depends on it, because it does. You know, that's what they say every damn cycle. So this exact same thing the Democrats are saying. It's a damn psyop for all of us. Let's read this one. He says, Gestapo FBI must be dismantled on day one of President Trump's next term in office. It says Hillary Clinton should be the one going to prison. She has ruined countless lives and worse. Y'all forgive me because I'm like all over the place and I'm not focused and I'm kind of stuttering over my words and stuff. I only got 4 hours of sleep last night and I worked all day today. And I'm a bit delirious. I ain't gonna lie. I'm doing this out of love, you know. I'm going on fumes though, and my brain is like not like I'm not on point right now. So forgive me for that. Y'all bear with me. This one, it says the FBI must be defunded and taken out of Washington, D.C. Our founders put in protection from this, but Congress is worried that if they do something to stop the FBI, that they'll be next. So the American people be damned. Defund the FBI entirely. We don't need them one bit. I think that will, it says following Biden's instructions. I think this would make a lot of people upset. Like, and it doesn't matter which side you're on this, but I'm leaning a little bit towards agreeing with this right here. You know, not because they're, let's say, being weaponized politically or whatever, and law enforcement is important. Being holding sometimes, like the FBI does good work, but we need to do better. And I don't know, maybe if you break it up into different kind of departments. I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. That's really tough pickle that we've gotten ourselves in. What do we do? Where do we go from here? But yeah, it's kind of like the argument of defund the police goes, but these same people that would say defund the FBI are not going to be the same people that say defund the police. And then so it's a bad slogan. It's a bad way of saying it, redirect the funds and like restructure the FBI would be a better way of saying it. Damn, this guy might go to prison for a meme. He's fighting for his life. Did I cover this? Let's go ahead and cover it. It says, huge scandal in France. What France government called anti-Semite graffitis were in fact done by Zionist groups. False flag operation to victimize French Jews. 75 years of victimization.
D'abord, on a des révélations. Révélation avec Mathias Tesson du service police-justice de BFM TV concernant le commanditaire.
Oh, it doesn't even have captions in there. And I don't know French, so I can't translate that. I hate that they have these ads in the threads now. Do they have a okay, this one has a caption.
Sur cette chaîne justice de BFM TV concernant.
I'm gonna try to read some of this for y'all. I'm gonna turn the sound off because we don't know French. It says justice of the BFM TV concerning the sponsor of these tags that we saw on some walls in Paris of these stars of David tagged in blue. What did we learn then on the, hold on. What did we learn then on this chain who sponsored the tags? Well, we learned several things today. We notably had the confirmation from a source close to the investigation that the man who was today suspected of being the sponsor to be at the origin of this. I hate the way they're doing this, man. This is so annoying. Of this affair. He is a businessman, aged around 50 years. His name is Anatoly Pritzenko. And since yesterday with Sabina, we were trying to contact, obviously, to try to ask him. We managed to follow his trail, notably thanks to the EUH. Social media, we communicate with him, EUH, by message since he actually made revelations to us about EUH. This whole thing and all his tags about the operation itself. The man says the EUH, the following, it was carried out by the European Jewish community. He claims it was not intended to offend or negatively hurt the feelings of any of these actions, was peaceful. Moreover, the stars were painted with a special washable paint, which excludes any damage. Of course, the objective might be more political. This is what he says of the context of the attacks and anti-Semitism. Europe, the act was intended solely to inspire and to support the Jews, to remind them of the history of the Jewish people. We couldn't think that the symbol of the Star of David, made with the respect and in the colors of the state, can be interpreted differently other than support. The man also makes other revelations on logistics. This time he explains that the buildings that were targeted, by chance, it was completely random, that it was houses, fences, and walls. He explains that he also recruited notably one couple in particular, having paid them quite modest. He obviously tells all these comments are his own. Oh man, this is hurting my eyes. So yeah, you can see in the picture the blue Star of David's there. So apparently they were thinking that it was different source for this, but it was supposedly being in supporting of Israel. Anyways, this is hurting my eyes. I'm gonna leave off of this. Did I cover this? My eyes are blurry now. I can barely see. Yeah, I read this about the guy in the subway. He went to jail. Let's cover this. Give my eyes a break. 728 billion hold more wealth than half of American households. If that doesn't tell you we're in a second Gilded Age, I don't know what will. It can be easy to feel discouraged, but the first Gilded Age teaches us lessons and how we can fight back. Let me explain. So let's play this. This is Robert.
Ultra wealthy elites, political corruption, vast inequality. These problems are not new. In the late 1800s, they dominated the country during America's first Gilded Age. We overcame these abuses back then, and we can do it again. Mark Twain coined the moniker the Gilded Age in his 1873 novel to describe the era in American history characterized by corruption and inequality that was masked by a thin layer of prosperity for a select few. The end of the 19th century and start of the 20th century marked a time of great invention. Bustling railroads, telephones, motion pictures, electricity, automobiles, which changed American life forever. But it was also an era of giant monopolies: oil, railroad, steel, finance, run by a small group of men who had grown rich beyond anything America had ever seen. They were known as robber barons because they ran competitors out of business, exploited workers, charged customers exorbitant prices, and lived like royalty as a result. Money consumed politics. Robber barons and their lackeys donated bundles of cash to any lawmaker willing to do bidding on their behalf. And when lobbying wasn't enough, the powerful turned to bribery, resulting in some of the most infamous political scandals in American history. The gap between the rich and poor in America reached astronomical levels. Large numbers of Americans lived in squalor. Anti-immigrant sentiment raged, leading to the enactment of racist laws to restrict immigration, and voter suppression, largely aimed at Black men who had recently won the right to vote, was rampant. The era was also marked by dangerous working conditions. Children, often as young as 10 years old, but sometimes younger, worked brutal hours in sweatshops. Workers trying to organize labor unions were attacked, sometimes killed. It seemed as if American capitalism was out of control, and American democracy couldn't do anything about it because it was bought and paid for by the rich. But Americans were fed up, and they demanded reform. Many took to the streets in protest. Investigative journalists, often called muckrakers then, helped amplify their cries by exposing what was occurring throughout the country. And a new generation of political leaders rose to end the abuses. Politicians like Teddy Roosevelt, who warned that a small class of enormously wealthy and economically powerful men, whose chief object is to hold and increase their power, could destroy American democracy. After becoming president in 1901, Roosevelt used the Sherman Antitrust Act to break up dozens of powerful corporations. Seeking to limit the vast fortunes that were creating a new American aristocracy, Congress enacted a progressive income tax through the 16th Amendment, as well as 2 wealth taxes. The first wealth tax in 1916 was the estate tax, a tax on the wealth of someone accumulated during their lifetime, paid by the heirs who inherited it. The second tax on wealth, enacted in 1922, was a capital gains tax, a tax on the increased value of assets paid when those assets were sold. The reformers of the Gilded Age also stopped corporations from directly giving money to politicians or political candidates. And then Teddy Roosevelt's fifth cousin, you may have heard of him, continued the work through his New Deal programs, creating Social Security, unemployment insurance, a 40-hour work week, and requiring that employers bargain in good faith with labor unions. But following the death of FDR and the end of World War II, when America was building the largest middle class the world had ever seen, we seem to forget about the abuses of the Gilded Age. Now, more than a century later, America has entered a second Gilded Age. It's also a time of extraordinary invention and a time when monopolies are taking over vast swaths of the economy. So we must renew antitrust enforcement to bust up powerful companies. Now, another generation of robber barons is accumulating unprecedented money and power. So once again, we must tax these exorbitant fortunes. Wealthy individuals and big corporations are once again paying off lawmakers, sending them billions to conduct their political campaigns, even giving luxurious gifts to Supreme Court justices. So we need to protect our democracy from big money, just as we did before. Voter suppression runs rampant in the states, as during the first Gilded Age, making it harder for people of color to participate in what's left of our democracy. So it's once again critical to defend and expand voting rights. Working people are once again being exploited and abused. Child labor is returning. Unions are busted. The poor are again living in unhealthy conditions. Homelessness is on the rise. And the gap between the ultra-rich and everyone else is nearly as large as in the first Gilded Age. So, once again, we need to protect the rights of workers to organize, invest in social safety nets, and revive guardrails to protect against the abuses of great wealth and power. The question now is the same as it was at the start of the 20th century. Will we fight for an economy and a democracy that works for all rather than the few? We've done it before. We can and must do it again.
So, like, and talking like this gets people really upset. It seems like people have a really short memory. It's like, I remember when they taught us about this in school. And then when on the show, I'm talking to the guys and I bring up this stuff and I try to compare the present day folks to, the robber barons of the past, people can't seem to make the connections, and then we talk about, when the United States had the really strong middle class, it was as a result of those FDR policies, all of the stuff that they did, stuff related to the wealth tax, that they did, making voting more equitable, this kind of stuff. And, so we've been pushing against that stuff. And then we're going backwards. Like he said, they're pushing for young people to vote. To work. You got more and more underage people voting. We got, like he said, we're in Gilded Age 2.0, and it's like people can't see it, and they're fighting for these damn corporations. Like they they're so brainwashed that they're voting against their own interests. They can't see the connections. Like, we were all taught this stuff in school. I don't understand why we can't apply that to present day and see the comparisons, But when you talk like this, then they're gonna call you a crazy leftist. But it's like that's how this stuff got done. This is how we ended up with such a strong middle class. And now they're eroding the middle class, they're breaking it up, busting it down, and that's the strength of America, the strength of the United States. The strength of the United States is the strong middle class. And I don't really understand what their end game is when you have everyone living check to check and they don't have any disposable income. Then who is going to buy their products and services? So this is not going to be good for anybody. It's going to get to the point. Rich people don't spend money. The economy is driven by poor and middle class folks. They're the ones that actually go and buy products and services. They're the ones who churn the economy. So it's crazy. It's insanity. It's run rapid. Lunatics. Let's read some tweet replies here. People love Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. Like, they worship these folks. It says, let's read the tweet replies. It says, this could be fixed if the government would give tax credits to corporations for increasing the taxes that employees pay. That would have $0 effect on treasury revenues and create wealth at the bottom of income earners. This one, it says, why do people blame oligarchs and corporations for bribing the politicians, but do not blame the politicians for taking the bribes? I mean, that's kind of beside the point, bro. Like, that's a dumb ass comment. I mean, like, okay, the politicians are corrupt. That's fine. We can go with that. But once you get those guys out of there and you get new people in there, and then they get bribed by the damn oligarchs, and then we're in the same boat again. You have to attack the root cause of the situation, what leads to the corruption. A lot of us, if we were put in the same position as these politicians, we would end up doing the same stuff that they do. It's like human nature. Like, they want to look out for their friends and their family and move ahead in their career or whatever. Like, you have to get rid of that incentive. You can't allow these corporations to, it's against the law anyways. Like, you're okay with them breaking the law? Better question, why do you defend the oligarchs and the corporations and want to focus on the politicians? What we say on this show all the time is, like, the government doesn't really run the show. It's these corporations who run the show. So you have to realize who the enemy is, or who you're fighting against. The politicians are just puppets. They're getting puppeted. The one who's pulling the strings is the corporations, the oligarchs. It says, if the 2024 presidential election were held today, for whom would you vote? Says, you're not hurting a 5 million top 5% in America. You are not hurting at 5 million top 5% in America. I don't get what he's saying there. It says, French revolutionaries had an effective response to their aristocracy problem. Telling you, off with his head. Off with his head. It says, still trying to empty the pockets of productive people. I see, Bob. Tell me, what have you ever produced in your life? That's rhetorical. As we all know, you have produced nothing. It's always the non-productive people who express the loudest envy. Whatever. This goes again what these people are saying. Okay, he hasn't produced nothing in his life. He just produced a video that we just watched right now. That's something. He has produced nothing in his life. And he says, tell me, he says, still trying to empty the pockets of productive people. Trying to empty the pockets of productive people. Okay, I get your argument, but, we're talking about corruption. We're talking about, busting up unions. We're talking about, having a strong middle class or not. We're talking about having actual democracy or not. You just want to be like, I want to defend these people. They're overproductive. They like, that's the other thing. That's that fallacy with this shit. Like, these people just pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and became who they are today. And that is not the case. Like, in none of these situations, none of them. You have a lot of nepotism. You have a lot of, it's basically aristocracy continuing. It's the same thing, but under a banner of capitalism. It says, when the government prints an unprecedented, incredible amount of the money supply, of course it will always wind up in the hands of the rich. Warning, the above tweet most certainly contains gaslighting, lies, and insanity. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. It says, while I agree with your assessment of the situation, I don't agree that taxing more is the solution. More money pouring into DC won't help as long as it is the corrupt money machine that it is. DC needs reform. We need innovation, not reheating century-old solutions. Those century-old solutions worked. It's what gave us that strong middle class. And you think that the politicians were any more or less corrupt than they are today? And the argument, I get it, where they say, put in more money to DC and they're corrupt. I get that argument at the same time, but you have a lot going on. You fighting against the corruption at the same time. Why do y'all care so much if these rich folks get taxed? Like, it's not coming out of your pocket. Why do you care so much about that? Why do you defend these guys so much? Like, they're bleeding us. Like, we're talking about how inflation, and we're talking about price gouging and price fixing. These corporations overcharging, and they're getting record profits. Meanwhile, the rest of us is suffering. What about, like, what they call it, windfall tax or whatever? Like, all of the money these corporations made after COVID, it's like, you're okay with us being screwed, basically. You're okay with that. As long as you have a 1 in a trillion chance to become one of the oligarchs, then you're okay with this system going the way that it is. It doesn't have a future. It's gonna lead to ruin. There's no, like, good way out of this. Like, we keep going down this road, and it's, everyone loses. Centuries old solutions. That shit worked. Busting up the freaking we have antitrust laws on the books right now, which aren't being enforced. It's a reason why you have that. Even the founding fathers and all of that, they were talking about this. When you have this consolidation of power and wealth, you're gonna automatically have corruption. So that's what they had. They had systems in place to try to keep from that happening. But you guys are freaking so brainwashed. Read this one. It says, there was a good documentary series by Scott Noble about plutocracy that I would like to find and watch again. So, yeah, I think that's what actually we have here. We have a plutocracy. Let's read this one. It says, maybe so, but I'm old and I don't have all that long to wait for the mutiny. I don't want to eat cat food and live in my tiny car. I get it. Another one that says, I really liked the architectural art of the last Gilded Age. The only thing this one brought us is the vulgar act of twerking. Another one that says, this is so good. This should be a public service announcement on national television. Another one that says, can you talk about Bob Faith and Gray Star? Somebody needs to, seriously. I don't know who those people are. It says, we can't start by filling the U.S. Senate seat being vacated by Joe Manchin with whoever this person is. Shrewsbury for Senate. Candidate for U.S. Senate, Democrat, West Virginia, Marine Corps vet, community and climate activist. Don't know anything about this guy. Says, thank you, Bob. This is great. I believe all true and beautifully presented. Thanks. Another one, between 1870 and 1900, the Gilded Age is described as a time of technological development and revolutionized American industry. During the Gilded Age, the U.S. began its expansion of the American railroad network and grew its economy by 2.5% per capita. And that's all true. And there's good and bad to everything, you know. Some good things happened, you know. But, you know, another thing that was taught in school, like when they start showing the pictures of the slums, you know, you had guys up in the skyscrapers who was using $100 bills to light their cigars. And at the bottom of their buildings, you had people living in complete squalor, you know, and they took those pictures and they moved around, and then people were moved to make a difference because things were just so terrible. It looked like everything was great. Like if you just look at the GDP, you know, then you might say everything is fine. If you look at the unemployment numbers, you might think that everything is fine, you know. You know, if you look at the stock market, you might feel like everything is fine. But then go talk to your neighbors and ask them, how is their life? You know, what is their budgets for groceries? You know, how much do they have left over at the end of the month? You know, how are they dealing? You know, what do they have to do? What sacrifices are they making? You know, it's like what is on Wall Street and what the GDP and all of this and what's happening, you know, what do they say on Main Street versus Wall Street? It's like two different worlds, you know, the reality versus the theory, you know, those numbers floating around on the computer screen are great, but real life is actually happening and people are actually literally suffering, and our democracy is literally suffering. You know, there's no real competition because we have all of these monopolies and conglomerates. So we really have a weak economy because if one like these, because in each sector you have monopolies. If one little thing goes wrong with one of those companies, then it's going to have dramatic effect all across the country. Like I used the example of the baby food shortage that we had not that long ago. And it was because there's only like 2 or 3 companies who produce all of the baby food. So then they had an issue. And then now we end up with a shortage of baby food throughout the country. This is a weak economy. Competition makes it strong. So if you had more competition in that baby food industry, that formula sector, then, you know, this company having problems in their factories wouldn't have no impact on the supply across the nation at all. People not understanding. It says, Reich wants to enact the Hugo Chavez plan in America. See, communism, socialism, crazy leftists. That's their argument. It says, where do Washington politicians rank? Another one that says, do you think it's fair to say that major points of technological revolution are prime time opportunity for the materialization and creation of monopolies, due generally to a first mover advantage and the power and leverage gained? See, making arguments for the monopolies is what people want to do. And then it's like you're taught this way too. Like that's another part. Like I say, like if you go and you take economics classes, they're going to teach you about capitalism in a way that like that's the only system that really works, you know. So anything else is socialism and crazy leftists. So it's like, it's capitalism or bust. It's like exponential growth is the only answer. Profit over people is the only way we could do the market. Another comment says the rich should pay a fair tax rate and bribing lawmakers has to stop. Let's go on. I'm beating a dead horse with this. I know y'all not even hearing me. What is this one? They spent years denouncing, mocking, and screaming about censorship on campuses. I was on many times to do it. Now that the censorship is done to ban and silence critics of Israel, including a Jewish group, they couldn't be happier. Let's play a little bit of this. So Glenn Greenwald posted this, and this kind of goes with the theme of the show today is free speech is dead.
Here in New York, they have seen many of these anti-Israel protests. Just now, the university has announced that they are suspending 2 student groups. One is called Students for Justice in Palestine, and the other Jewish Voice for Peace, which is a Palestinian advocacy group. Now, this school is writing the group's, quote, repeatedly violated university policy relating to holding campus events, and that culminated in an unauthorized event on Thursday that proceeded despite warnings and included threatening rhetoric and intimidation. So this is the first real example we've seen on the part of a major American university, an Ivy League school, that is pushing back against these groups. A major development. There could be a lot of reasons why we are seeing this afternoon, maybe here in New York. They have seen many of these anti-Israel protests. Just now, the university has announced that they are suspending 2 student groups. One is called Students for Justice in Palestine, and the other Jewish Voice for Peace, which is a Palestinian.
So yeah, free speech is dead. They're suspending these groups. They can't talk bad about Israel. It's like, if you agree or disagree with what these people are saying is beside the point. The amendment that gave people the right for free speech is the right for somebody to say something that you disagree with. It says, the chair of Columbia Special Committee on Campus Safety, we are suspending Students for Justice in Palestine and Jewish Voice for Peace as official student groups through the end of the fall term. All the censorship is going in one direction. So yeah, we're suspending them, censoring them. They can't talk. We don't care about free speech. You get to say what we want you to say or what we approve. Glenn Greenwald posted this. He says, this is, of course, done in the name of the safetyism that conservatives have spent years denouncing and the liberal left has spent years demanding. Now they've switched sides. It says, every time I cite another example of censorship happening on U.S. campuses, in workplaces, or in media, always of pro-Palestinian voices, never pro-Israel ones, I'm deluged with conservatives justifying the censorship by invoking classic theories of hate speech and safetyism. This comment, it says, so is this campus violence? Another one says, words are violence. Do you have any examples of the groups organizing violent attacks on Jewish students? Violence is already a crime. Just admit you want groups that don't support Israel to be banned. It says, don't you also preside over special safety committee for online media members? Let's see, it says, in part states the following: Columbia University suspends, we already know that. It says they broke Columbia's basic rules related to holding campus events and they got suspended. That's not censorship. It's the normal consequences for rule breaking behavior. Is that true? Another one, it says, Are the threatening rhetoric and intimidation cited in the attached statements going in both directions? That seems like a pretty relevant factor in determining whether or not this action is in fact one-sided, yet you don't seem to address it here. Another one that says, they are the ones physically attacking people, has nothing to do with free speech. It says, I see it differently. It's time for these anti-free speech university students to learn the lesson of what goes around comes around. Also, there's a massive difference in scale of what being said, which should be irrelevant. But in light of what has qualified of cancellation, pre-October 7th deserves discussion. Let me see. Where did I start? It says, post the entire announcement in context, which explains which policies they were violating. It says, all the terrorism coming from one direction. It says, Zionist orchestrated fascism. I've long been saying that contemporary Zionism that we've seen post-1948 is danger to the global democracy. Zionism ought to have been abandoned upon the independence of Israel in 1948. At that point, it became obsolete. And since then, it's been nothing but a concoction of extremism and terror of one type or another. Why do I have to go back to the top after I don't like that. A couple more comments. It says, Israel has poisoned American universities. This one, it says, I'd like to know who is funding these groups. It says, this is good news, Glenn. Some of us don't want to listen to people who support Hamas. Well, you don't want people to have free speech then. Another comment, it says, it would be good to provide the proof of the warnings and the threatening rhetoric and intimidation to the groups. It seems best to adhere to the policies and procedures so you can continually heard and understood. It says, everyone knows the First Amendment is not that valuable if the U.S. interests are threatened by it. Boom. Another one, it says, a university in America just casually suspended the right of students to get together and talk about whatever they want, full or well. Another one, if you make people feel unsafe, apparently they have been suspending students for decades. Another one, it says, they aren't being suspended for speech, but for making Jewish and Zionist students feel unsafe, and for good reason. It's what those groups do, whatever they organize. It says, it's what those groups do wherever they organize. It's overdue that these hate groups be treated like hate groups. There's no KKK chapter at CU, so why SGP? I think that's pretty extreme. But your guys' bias is showing. Your mask is slipping. I covered this already. I covered this too, I think. I'm not covering that. That's too horrible. It says, don't believe for a second that Biden's green lighting of Israel's slaughter in Gaza only hurts Americans standing in the Middle East. This is Mexico City. I cannot recall the last time there was a protest of this size in Mexico against Israel's war. Yeah, it's protests all over the world. DOP debate. I think I'm going to talk about that a bit before we get out of here. What does this one say? Intercept. The Biden administration put out a 3-page list of arms the U.S. is sending to Ukraine, but information on weapons sent to Israel could fit into just one sentence. Read our story on the secrecy surrounding weapons the U.S. is sending to Israel. Yeah, you know there's something related to that because there was a, what was it they said? They said Biden didn't even want to disclose. He wanted to pass a resolution to make it so he didn't even have to disclose to Congress whenever he was making any kind of deals with Israel related to weapons. So what's with all this the secrecy? What's with all of that? Harriet Tubman. Galveston County law enforcement officials are warning about what they say is a worsening gang war in the county, a conflict that burst into open Saturday when 6 people were shot at a biker rally in downtown Galveston. Yeah, I might come back to that. It says this is why Israel is banning Al Jazeera and killing its journalists. It says an Al Jazeera digital investigation found no grounds to the Israel forces' claim that there is Hamas tunnel under Gaza's Sheikh Hamad Hospital. Apparently, there's Hamas in everything. They're everywhere. They're inside ambulances and shit. This one, it says, are there any limits, legal, moral, political, on what Israel is permitted to do as long as they say that it is destroy Hamas? Yes, there are many such limits, unless you want to abolish the entire post-World War II scheme of the Geneva Convention and laws of war. I don't know if I want to cover that. Like, I'm really kind of tired of it. Ramaswamy, $5 million bribe, bash. There's no evidence to support that. Ramaswamy, there's a lot of circumstantial evidence. Ask Grassley for the recordings. Bush, nobody has seen it. Ramaswamy, Joe Biden and Nikki Haley should release their tax returns. Let's play this.
But what I'm saying is, as a Republican candidate, I can't just call out Democrats and their corruption. I've called out the Hunter Biden corruption from Ukraine and the $5 million bribe. And I will continue to do that, but I will call it out the Republican Party.
There's no evidence to support.
As well.
There's no evidence to support.
That he was paid a $5 million bribe from Burisma.
No.
Well, if he was, that's corruption. Okay.
But if he was, I just want you're making an allegation where there's no evidence.
There's literally
to back that up. Our Daniel Dale literally just talked about this on the air.
Absolutely, there's a lot of circumstantial evidence and testimonial evidence to suggest it. You have U.S. senators saying they've received information. The investigations are proceeding as we speak, but that is corruption in the Democratic Party that I have called out. And I think it deserves to be called out in the Republican Party as well.
There's no evidence.
No, I've not admitted there's absolutely evidence.
Circumstantial evidence, but
well, look, Chuck Grassley, ask Chuck Grassley for the actual recordings that are actually turned over from Burisma.
We have them. Nobody has seen it. But let's
why haven't they released? And I think whether it's one thing I'll just say is bipartisan point. Whether you're Joe Biden or Nikki Haley, release your tax returns. Be completely open about where you've made your money. The American people deserve to know. I did something early in this campaign that, frankly, people in both parties should be doing. I put out 20 years of tax returns. I understand why people don't do it, but that's the kind of honesty we need in both parties. And so that's what.
Yeah, that's what they do. They deflect. They go on to something else. They know they got caught. Talking about the strain on Social Security. We just did a Robert Wright video, so I'm not going to do that. This is pretty cool. It says in China, rather than towing illegally parked vehicles, the valet robot, a compact extendable cart with wheel grippers, reparks them in closest legal parking spot. Isn't that cool? Like, I can't see here in the United States us doing anything in this parameter. Like, it's like punish you, punish you, punish you. We have the punitive system. It's like, get their car towed and make them have to pay and all of this. And, they shouldn't have parked there. It's like, okay, that's fine and dandy. But is there other systems, more humane systems that we can do? And we look at other countries around the world and see how they deal with things and, implement the best systems. Who knows what the situation was while somebody parked or whatever. Maybe they had some kind of emergency or whatever. Where is the humanity? Why does it have to be punishment always? Is there sound to this? There's no sound. Anyways, I think that's cool. Netanyahu. It says Representative Castro lays out what is clear but for some reason it's not said out loud. Netanyahu is prioritizing collective punishment over the release of hostages. It says, it seems to me that Prime Minister Netanyahu is prioritizing collective punishment over the release of hostages. 20K bombs dropped in 141 square miles in Gaza, with the release of only 5 hostages having been secured. Yep, I think a lot of this is common sense, but your predetermined views on things, you know, they block your ability to see the reality of situations. What is this one? It says, my view is that these marches are disrespectful. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says he will hold the chief of the Met Police accountable for allowing a pro-Palestinian demonstration to go ahead on Armistice Day. Yeah, man, there goes the free speech thing. I mean, like, you can disagree with them all you want, but like, protesting is protected under the First Amendment. So do you guys want to just say you want to scrap the First Amendment whenever it's something that you don't approve of? It says, what sort of regime travels halfway around the world to impose an illegal occupation and then carry out airstrikes in self-defense? It says, U.S. launches new self-defense strike in Syria, Pentagon. The latest bombing run has hit a facility used by Iran-backed groups, the U.S. military claims. Moving on. Okay, here we go. Back to the free speech or lack thereof. It says Republicans have literally went on TV to say we're going to turn Gaza into a parking lot. Where's the condemnation for that? Where's the condemnation for 10,000 plus Palestinians dying? We will continue to stand for dignity and humanity of all in the face of inhumanity. So let's play a little bit of Ilhan Omar's clip. So this is when they were debating on whether or not to censure Rashida Tlaib, which they ended up deciding to censor her.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is glaring hypocrisy when you have Republicans on the other side of the aisle trying to create definitions and say Rashida wants to annihilate people, when Max Miller himself went on TV and said we're turning Gaza into a parking lot and we want to annihilate Palestinians. Nobody condemned him on that side of the aisle. What is true here is that every single one of them has not acknowledged the fact that Palestinians are dying in the tens of thousands, but will continue to say it is us who are not acknowledging humanity. Rashida will stand strong.
Gentlelady's time has expired.
Movement will continue for liberation until every
Gentlelady's time has expired.
Has the right to
Gentleman
live
from
in
Maryland
liberty.
is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is glaring hypocrisy when you have Republicans.
Yeah. Tweet replies, it says, all of you should be thrown out of Congress immediately. Another one, it says, where's the call to release the innocent hostages? Another comment says, where was your condemnation when Hamas attacked civilians celebrating peace? Another one, it says, your colleagues just called to eliminate Jews from the river to the sea in Israel. Where's your condemnation? Another one, it says, have you heard about Paul Kessler? Another one, powerful. Thank you for giving a voice to the innocent. Another one says, where did you get that 10,000 number, Hamas? Another comment says, where's the condemnation for this? Post unavailable. Says, what about the hostages who were ripped out of their homes? What rights do they have? Another one, and how many of these civilians were Hamas terrorists? And that's if they were even actually that many deaths. How many of these civilians were Hamas terrorists? Oh my God. So how many of them weren't? It's a better question. It says, why don't you advocate for the removal of Hamas? They murdered over 1,400 Jews. not to mention Americans as well. Something is seriously wrong with you. Sympathize with the terrorist organization. Says, who believes they should be investigated by the FBI as terrorist sympathizers? Another comment says, the name of the same humanity. When will you ask Hamas to surrender? The war will be over immediately. No, it won't. Another one that says, where's the condemnation against you using stats from Hamas, a terror organization, where the demand of our hostages to be returned? Where's the condemnation for this jihad? This topic takes all of my freaking energy away, I swear. Here goes freaking this guy. It says, extreme MAGA Republicans have plunged the House into total chaos. And let's be honest, there's only one way out of this mess. Taking back our democracy majority. That's where you come in. Oh, I'm not playing that clip. So that's the D-Triple-Z. This guy's asking for freaking money. It's like they even got somebody that kind of even looks like Obama. Like, he's the majority leader, Democratic majority leader right now. Jeffries, I want to say is his name. I don't like this guy at all. He's a Clintonite too. He's like he was anointed by Clinton, Hillary. Yeah, let's go ahead and go back to this. It says, Vladimir Markov was a poacher who met a grisly end in the winter of 1997 after he shot and wounded a tiger and then stole part of the tiger's kill. The injured tiger hunted Markov down in a way that appeared to be premeditated. The tiger staked out Markov's cabin, systematically destroying anything that Markov sent on it, and then waited between 12 to 48 hours by the front door for Markov to come home. When Markov finally appeared, the tiger killed him, dragged him into the bush, and ate him. Damn, bro. You fucked with the wrong one. You messed with the wrong one, buddy. That dude wasn't having it. Says, this is absolutely unbelievable. Ursula von der Leyen, who according to the EU's constituents has no business doing foreign policy, now blames China for escalation in Gaza. So it's China's fault. Oh, China. Pan-African leader Julius Malema has called on International Criminal Court to issue a warrant for the arrest for Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for atrocities his government has committed against the Palestinian people in Gaza. During a November 5th address to the members of his party in Johannesburg, the Economic Freedom Fighters, the president said Israel has crossed the line by engaging in acts such as bombing refugee camps and hospitals. Israel has ramped up its bombardment of Gaza since October 7, when the 75-year-old conflict between Palestine and Zionist state escalated. For example, on October 7th, about 500 people were killed when Gaza's Al-Ali Baptist Hospital was hit by what many believe to be an Israeli airstrike. Tel Aviv denied being behind the carnage, claiming instead that a missile that originated from within Gaza hit the medical facility. However, military analysis say only Israel has that kind of weapons that could have hit and destroyed the hospital in a manner in which it did. Israeli also frequently targeted ambulances ferrying wounded Palestinians to hospitals. Targeting medical facilities and their workers is a violation of various international laws, including several articles of the Fourth Geneva Convention in 1949, as well as a resolution 2675 adopted by the UN General Assembly in 1970. Since October 7th, more than 10,000 Palestinians and 1,400 Israelis have been killed. Let us know what you think of Malema's remarks. Yeah, I don't think there's a need to play his clip. Forgive me, y'all. I'm freaking delirious. What is this one? The Gray Zone, Max Blumenthal asked the State Department why Tony Blinken and Joe Biden have accused the nation of genocide, which have killed far less than Israel has in Gaza in 1 month, and if Biden administration has enabled Israel's killing spree with his use of the term human shields. Max Blumenthal, how does he get? He has a press badge, I guess. He gets really close, like in those official as fucking meetings and shit. How the hell does he get in there? This one, breaking news. There's been a devastating chemical explosion 60 miles north of Houston. Sound Resource Solutions makes solvents for glue and paint remover, and the buildings is said to house chemicals known to have acute toxins, carcinogenicity, and reproductive toxicity. The blast happened along U.S. Highway 59 in Shepherd. The city is located in San Jacinto County. Officials are saying at this time the effects of the chemical in the air are unknown. U.S. Highway 59 has remained closed from FM 1988 to exit 451B as emergency responses work at the scene. When was this? Does it have a date on here? It says, while the investigation is ongoing, I will continue to speak out for the need to hold corporations accountable for environmental pollution. The Environmental Justice and Health Protections Act that I co-sponsored would create a new office within the Environmental Protection Agency to focus on environmental justice issues. It has to pass.
You can hear it blowing up as that. It's awesome. It's just, you can hear it blowing up as they were in the yard. It's blowing up as they
Damn, that picture is pretty damn dramatic. I wouldn't want to be anywhere near that. Let's see. I think I have some quick news stories I want to do. I wanted to play some more clips of the. Let me see. Belgium's Deputy Prime Minister Petra de Sutter calls for sanctions on Israel. It's time for sanctions against Israel. The rain of bombs is humane. So, Belgium. This is this guy begging for money. What was this? The man having a meltdown after Republican poll greeter said hi to him has been exposed as Brandy Anthony Martin. It says in 2018, while President Trump was hosting a celebration of America after disinvited the Philadelphia Eagles to the White House, he was heckled by a booing audience member. The heckler, Brandy Anthony Martin. The heckler was captured by a photographer yelling at Trump, "Stop hiding behind the armed services and the national anthem. Let's hear it for the Eagles," Martin reportedly shouted at the time. I don't think I want to do that one. This chick right here says a Palestinian woman was arrested by Israel after uploading a WhatsApp status expressing support for Palestinian resistance. That's pretty crazy. That's the state of the affairs. Okay, we can't understand. So yeah. So she uploaded a WhatsApp status expressing support for Palestinian resistance. And they came and they arrested her. So yeah, I guess, we're talking about free speech, but when it's wartime, the rules are a bit different. So that's what I will say about that. When it's wartime, you got to be careful. This story right here is crazy. It says in 1999, waitress Tonda Dickerson was tipped a lottery ticket and won, what is this, 10 million? Her colleagues then sued her for their share. Then she was sued by the man who tipped her the ticket. Later, she was kidnapped by her ex-husband and had to shoot him in the chest. Finally, she went to court against the IRS. Wow. There's a TV show or whatever, something I was watching where they talk about these people who win the lottery and the horror stories that happen afterwards. It's like you win the lottery and then like horrible stuff happens afterwards. Like your life goes to shit. It's like maybe it'd be better to not win the lottery. I'm getting delirious, y'all. I don't know how much longer I'm gonna go. Let's go to see what I have left in here. It'd be nice if Doc jumped in here so I can freaking have somebody to talk to and not be talking the whole time, because I'm losing my voice and my eyes are blurry and I didn't get much sleep, so I'm kind of, my train of thought is not. I mentioned this. It says controversial. Am I sharing? Let me make sure y'all can hear me. I mentioned this. So this one, it says controversial $9 billion project to widen I-45 is set to start, TxDOT says. ABC 13 posted this. It says, after years of planning, studying, and designing, followed by public protests and a county lawsuit, the expansion of I-45 through downtown is on the horizon. I don't want to see. I drive through here every time I go to class, to and from. And I am not looking forward to the mess that's going to be while they're doing this construction. You know, I guess they've been leading up to it for the longest because the pre-construction has already been there and it's just been sitting there for the longest now. So I guess they got the go-ahead to move forward with it now. I'm not looking forward to the mess that this is going to cause, man. And what route am I going to take now? How long is it going to take them to get finished with that shit? Comments, it says, well, guess I'm avoiding 45 for the next 10 years. I'm telling you, because I remember the construction on I-10 and that shit took forever. Another comment says, no, damn it, we want a subway system, north to south, east to west. That's a good idea. It don't have to be a subway. Well, I don't know if we can actually do a subway. We live on a swamp. Like, I don't even know if we can actually do that. But you could do it above ground train. You could totally do that. North, south, east to west. And that would make sense. Comment, it says, moved here from Miami, Florida, and Houston has the worst street roads I've seen. Dirty and ugly streets I've seen, and they don't even have sidewalks. Another one that says, S gotta be a money laundering scheme, but it never ends. Another one that says, when will they realize this will never solve the traffic problem? I'm saying it's not gonna solve it. Situations don't improve. You widen the freeway to the widest freeway on the planet, and it's still a freaking parking lot. Another comment says, how about simply constructing an underground train system? I don't think we can make an underground train system here, but we can do one above ground. Another comment says, Houston needs a 5-year break from construction. That's never going to happen. Another comment says, has the city even acknowledged 288 and 610's chaos? Another comment says, one more lane, man, just one more lane, I swear it'll reduce traffic. And that's what they've been saying forever, and it hasn't happened. Another comment says, 45 is already one of the deadliest highways in the U.S., and y'all about to add construction to the mix. Another comment says, finish what the F y'all started first. Pictures of people in traffic, like, I don't know what this is from, but I remember when they was doing the construction on 290 looked like this. And I lived over there, and I had to do that. I had to commute every morning. It was a nightmare, and there was no way around it. You could do the streets, but everyone else was doing that too. So it was just an hour to go, like, I don't know, 20 miles or some shit. So ridiculous. Another comment says, I'm excited for its completion so my great grandkids can reap the benefits. Yeah. And those benefits are going to be what? Being traffic on a wider freeway. Let me see.
At home on election day?
No. I love American democracy too much that Biden and Trump, if it's a Biden and Trump race, then I would vote for Biden, even if he was dead.
Damn.
No chance I'd stay home. I've never.
And I'm a Republican.
Is there any chance you would stay at home on election day?
No. I love American democracy too much that Biden and Trump, if it's a Biden and Trump race, then I would vote for Biden, even if he was dead.
Damn.
No chance I'd stay home. I've never.
And I'm a Republican.
Is there any chance you would?
That's pretty damn extreme. I'd vote for Biden even if he was dead. Wow, bro. That's extreme. And then he says, and I'm a Republican. And comments, it says, that's what's up. I'm a Republican and I'm still voting Trump even if he's incarcerated. Trump 2024. Another comment says, if anyone thinks Trump will be handling the Israel-Palestine conflict any better, they're kidding themselves. Biden is most definitely playing politics wherever Trump doesn't even understand the game. Another comment, it says, I can't believe this country is forcing me to choose between Biden and Trump again. I'm telling you, bro. Another comment, it says, I don't think we could survive another Trump presidency. We haven't recovered from the damage he did while in office. It was a traumatic 4 years. Another comment says, man, Trump wasn't racist when he was with Tupac and the other celebrities back in the day, only when he became president, right? Trump 2024. Another comment, it says, and this is why Trump really lost. It wasn't the Dems, it was his own party that voted him out. Republicans who never voted Democrat and are going to do the same this time around. People really think we want Biden again? Hell no. America just keeps on giving us the lesser of evil candidates. The lesser of two evils is still evil, man. I refuse to vote for evil. Another one that says, facts, Trump will turn this country upside down and will find a way to never leave office. Another one that says, I'm a Democrat, and if it comes down to Biden-Trump, I will vote Trump. After what I am seeing, it's clear that this country needs to hit rock bottom so its population wakes up for some change. Biden will keep the empire afloat, just enough for people to stay asleep. That is a valid comment right there. It says, I totally agree. I would vote Biden even if he was dead, given the alternative. Another one is, we're effed either way. And that's what it is right there. We're effed either way. Either way, we're screwed. Another comment says, this page should be called Obsessed with Trump. There's a lot of damn media outlets that's obsessed with Trump. It says, the Republican Party has not been the same since the President Obama, Biden, and McCain Palin race in 2008. That's when the craziness really began and has just escalated ever since. Palin started the crazy and Trump escalated it. Another one that says, I've noticed people that support Trump usually have a pretty shitty life and blame others for their circumstances and think Trump is the standing up to the people who are responsible for why their life is so messy. But joke's on them. It's people like Trump that would be more responsible because he gets away with stuff you can't. He steals from you and has been getting away with it for decades. It's pretty interesting. It's true that the stuff that Trump does, the average person would be in jail for.
Our request for a comment. But according to those new search warrants, the Texas Rangers opened a new investigation, their own investigation, saying that the judge's office has withheld documents. The search warrant that was just filed says that Hidalgo's office didn't cooperate with the Texas Rangers, didn't hand over all of their records showing communication between staffers and the office during that initial investigation. The Ranger wrote in this newest search warrant that he found, quote, indications that the evidence has been concealed. Now, only those 3 former Hidalgo staffers have been indicted, and they are going to be back in court next month. We'll keep you posted on that. The DA's office tells us, meanwhile, quote, the documents speak for themselves. Hidalgo's office has yet to respond to our request for a comment, but according to those new search warrants, the Texas Ranger
Hidalgo just can't catch a break, huh? You know, I think Harris County is corrupt as hell, and it's like, I don't know. I'm sure she has some say in the corruption. I mean, it's like you can't really get into those positions without being kind of shady, I think. Let's read this. It says the investigation is tied to bid rigging allegations that led to 3 of Judge Lina Hidalgo's staffers being indicted 2 years ago. According to new search warrants, the Texas Rangers say the judge's office withheld documents. Check the link in the bio for more. So it's not that Judge Lina Hidalgo is actually in trouble directly. It was that some people in her office are. Comments, it says, why do people hate her? I don't understand. It says, you're a journalist, not a lawyer or a judge. She doesn't owe you a comment. She's brilliant and obviously has made the good old boys look foolish because they are acting like the Gestapo. So now they have to save face and further harass her and keep her from doing her real job. Another comment, it says, and she endorses Sheila Jackson Lee. Corrupt politicians need company. Another comment, it says, no wonder she had a mental breakdown, been hiding shit and being sketchy. Another one says, surprise, surprise, now she's going to blame it on her mental health condition. Another one says, she has never been fit for office. Why is there so much hate for her? Another one, it says, great reporting exposing longtime Harris County corruption. Harris County corruption is what it is. Another comment says, yeah, something isn't sitting right. Also, when her team was getting indicted, she randomly went after the DA. Both are liberals, which even Og was like, if you have nothing to hide, why are you getting so defensive? She should resign now before it gets any worse for her. See, but it's not on her. You know, people have a hate for her that they want to just make this about her, but clearly it's not. I mean, whatever. Let's move on. I don't really know where all the hate for her comes from.
But China, it dominates and controls mining production on the ground. And what I've seen with my own eyes and what any Congolese person living in the Katanga region will tell you is they pay no heed to the human rights of the Congolese people, and they pay no heed to the environmental protection. Mining companies, especially the Chinese ones, dump toxic effluents in the earth, the air, the water. I have seen villages with children playing in the dirt covered in sulfuric acid powder that is wafting over the entire countryside from mineral processing plants at Chinese mining companies. And as I've mentioned a few times, millions of trees have been clear cut. And I never met anyone in the Congo who said they saw anyone planting one tree to replace them. The waterways, lakes, and rivers have also been polluted. So fish stocks are polluted, animal stocks are polluted, vegetables are polluted. Everyone there is being slowly poisoned to death by cobalt mining operations. That's the truth that the stakeholders at the top of the chain don't want us to know, but that's the truth the Congolese people are desperate to share. Country of the Congo. But China, it dominates and controls mining production on the ground. And
so it says, this is what's going on in DR Congo right now. It says, where is the Congo government? It says, Chaka, what are you going to do now that it appears your anger and racism should be focused more on China than any white Euro or Western country? Another comment, it says, where is the Congo government at? That's what I want to know. How do they let people come in and do this? I need answers. It says, why is China in Congo? The other one says, shame on the Congolese government for allowing this to happen to their people. The other one says, the colonizer to the next. Where are our leaders who care about us? The other one says, the DR Congo need to kick China out like Niger did France. The other one says, hold up a couple posts ago, like a year ago, you post information making it seem like Chinese were better than the West. Another comment, it says, it's the government's fault. Why should China give a if there's no regulations? Yeah, it's more complicated than that because you got the rebels fighting over there. So, and then they're backed by foreign nations. See, what it really simply is that, you have private investors who want resources, and sometimes it's better for them when it's a bunch of chaos going on, because then they can just slide in there and steal the resources without having to deal with the governments or whatever. They have multiple tactics, and they're no good guys, they're just interests. Check this nostalgia right here.
On Saturday before midnight.
That's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
It says shopping for movies at Blockbuster in 1993. Wish it didn't have that horrible ass music playing.
Problem. And this film is due back on Saturday before midnight.
That's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I remember this. I'm old enough to remember this. Going to Blockbuster and renting movies and Be Kind, Rewind, and them charging you the damn more than the cost of the freaking movie in late fees. So Blockbuster was too greedy. That's the reason why they freaking went out of business. And they didn't adjust fast enough. Let's read some comments. It says, seeing videos like this is gold now. Rediscover the Blockbuster magic of 93. Take a trip down memory lane. It says, I used to get excited to get off of work on a Friday, go straight to Blockbuster, get a few movies, and go to Pizza Hut on the way home. Good times. Another one that says, why did Blockbuster go out of business? Why didn't they make deals with the biggest production companies that they can sell their films exclusively? That's what everyone else is doing. You can't see 5 TV shows anymore without having 5 different subscriptions. Blockbuster could have stayed alive. They could have, but they didn't. It says, what's in those big boxes? LOL. Those are VHSs. Everybody had a VCR back then. Another comment says, don't forget the little room at the back. Another comment, hold on. It says, don't forget to rewind before returning. Another one says, if they reopen Blockbuster, it will be a huge success. The novelty of renting a movie priceless. Yeah, but what are you going to play it on? We don't even have what if it's a DVD, it's definitely not going to be a VHS because I don't even think they make those. But if it's like a Blu-ray or DVD, people don't even have Blu-ray or DVD players anymore. There's no point in it because of streaming. It's so much simpler and easier. You'd have to buy a whole new device and then figure out how to hook it up to your TVs and shit and find all of the freaking cords to do that. And that's probably not going to be easy because it's not that readily available. It's like, I think about Blockbuster and I think about Radio Shack, which was big back then too. So Radio Shack, I don't think Radio Shack exists anymore either. So you have to go to Best Buy or something. And they're not going to have the stuff that you need to do that. Let's read another comment. It says, most of the joy is searching for something you haven't seen before, or a new release has one more left. Yeah, I remember those days when you caught the last one of the new release. And you're like, oh, I hit the jackpot. Another comment says, when a new release came out and you looked behind the movie cover to make sure they had one left to rent. Another one says, thought that was Carmela. Another comment says, good times. Now I scroll through multiple streaming services until I finally end up watching something I've seen 1,000 times. Happens to me. I don't watch much TV though, you know. I really just don't have the time or the patience for it. It's all trash too. It's so much stuff that is not good. That's the reason why you're scrolling forever, because you're scrolling through a bunch of trash. It says, I miss old time where you had to find a VHS to watch in 2 minutes. Now, 3 million Netflix movies, and you're like, there's nothing to watch. Life was simpler when you know, I don't know, had fewer options. So then you just gotta freaking go with something. It says the Chinese architect created sponge cities to prevent flooding. It says, for his innovative, porous city designs based on ancient Chinese wisdom, his work is found in cities from Beijing to Bangkok. But his life had a much more humble start. I was a peasant son born in 1963 in a small village called Dongyu at the intersection where there's 2 waterways meet. I was assigned to the task of taking care of buffalo.
Morning and late afternoon, you have to lead the buffalo to go to the creek. I remember when I was 10 years old, I fell into the current and I thought I would be drowned. But luckily enough, the creek was all distributed with willows. You know, the water is always mixed with groves of willows, with shrubs, with reeds, and this vegetation actually slowed down the current. So I grabbed this vegetation, I grabbed the willow, and eventually saved myself. I survived this flood. Now this makes me feel that water or river should go together with green. The blue and the green should go together. Create a resilient, create a spongy-like river bank, so that not only slow down the water, but also save lives. This teaches me how the real river should look like.
So in the 1980s, China underwent a process of agriculture modernization. Traditional meandering irrigation systems which followed the land's contours were replaced with straight ditches and vast industrial reservoirs, which left some fields dry and others flooded. The village ponds disappeared, and what then biodiversity and critical hub for social life. The destruction of my own paradise. Let's see.
Make me think that we need a revolution, because there are thousands of millions of villages like that in China and in the world, suffering the same problem. And we need a revolution to save that, to recover, to recreate. That's really a nature-based, a harmonious living. The man should live with nature, should depend on nature, adapt to nature, and has a harmonious relationship with nature. And as a key for me is water. How you manage water, how you treat water, how you make use of water is a key to recreate this kind of land of peach blossoms.
More than 90% of China's cities regularly flood, threatening health, sanitation, and drinking water. There's a Chinese saying that water is a treasure.
You should retain water from all directions. Water is precious. That's one of my roots for my concept of sponge city. slow down water, retain water, recycle water, makes the landscape porous.
So it says the innovative port city design is based on ancient Chinese wisdom. Yeah, I think we should try to find ways to live in harmony with nature instead of, you know, busting it up, breaking it down all the time. The music was killing me on this. Terrible. Why does it do that? It's so irritating. Man, I think I'm gonna wrap it, y'all, because I'm freaking exhausted. Hold on. It says, Kentucky teen arrested for stabbing police officer in the face with a screwdriver while he tried to arrest her. Her bond is set at $500,000. Crazy. Says they gave her a bond and arrested her, and she is still alive. She looks like she's taking the damn pic for social media in that picture right there. She wanted to be famous. She stabbed a guy in the face with a screwdriver. What is this one? It says, sitting in my room thinking about how the U.S. paid for Israel to have universal health care and free college, but it costs $850 for a root canal and $30K for 1 year. I think it was saying at a community college, yeah. But it costs $850 for a root canal and $30K for 1 year in a community college in the U.S. Hold on, let me read that again. It says, sitting in my room thinking about how the U.S. pays for Israel to have universal health care and free college, but it costs $850 for a root canal and $30K for 1 year in a community college in the U.S. I think we're getting screwed, y'all. I think we could say that, safely say that. I cover this. It says, being used to Norwegian healthcare, I'm always stunned when Americans argue that they don't want to pay for other people's healthcare taxes. How do they think insurance works? Insurance is like taxes, but a large sum goes to the company instead of it all going to the consumers. It says, I'm an insurance broker and I 100% agree on this. Hopefully one day we'll join the rest of the modern world and have universal health care. It says, won't pay for another people's health care, but happy to pay for a CEO's yacht. Another comment, it says, fun fact, average insurance cost is way higher than the increase in taxes with universal health care. Another comment says, Americans don't have the sense of community we have in Europe. They would hate to pay for somebody else if they think that person doesn't deserve it. They'd rather put their money in some CEO's pockets because they think CEOs deserve it. Another comment says, it's called corporate control of the government and robust corporate propaganda machine. Another one, it says, I'd be careful about painting with such a broad brush about what Americans say or believe. Maybe 15 years ago, that trope had more traction than it does today. But even if only 1/4 of us recognize the absurdity of the current system and want universal publicly funded health insurance, that's 83 million people, which is 15 times the population of Norway. But it's not 1/4 of us. It's more like 40 to 45% of us, with 55 to 60% thinking the federal government should be responsible for ensuring all Americans have the health coverage, whether by private or public insurance schemes. This from a Gallup poll earlier this year. Also, private health insurance isn't rare by any means globally. Some countries with universal coverage are single payer, some are hybrid, and some, like Switzerland, are fully private. So people always gonna make excuses to not even try to do this. Like, okay, yeah, Norway is a smaller country, but can't you just scale up the whole thing? It seems like it will be easier that it's more people because you're gonna have more money going into the system. Let me read another one. It says it makes the tax penalty for not having insurance all the more infuriating. I'll just die then. I'm not playing all these little games like I'm in Saw. There's not enough plus sides to being alive if it means participating in this F system for me to still have any will to live. The same goes for taxes and my will to uphold your civil duty. Another comment says, Americans have been raised to think that if something doesn't produce a profit for somebody, it's not worth doing. Yes, we're idiots. Comment, it says, operative word being think. Those who are opposed to non-privatized for-profit healthcare don't do much of it, and the party they support takes every measure possible to ensure nothing in the government operates well and smoothly, so they are geared not to trust government-run healthcare. Yep, sounds like a setup. Another comment, it says, and then the company has enough profits to finance a lot of the largest national ad campaigns and even put their names on huge sports stadiums, all with money from the pool that supposedly should be protecting and serving people during hardship. And they find every last minute to not pay. They find every excuse to not pay every time. You got to hackle with them. After you've been giving them money forever, when it's time for them to pay out, you got to hackle with them. Another comment says, such a simple yet effective explanation. It says, facts. Sadly, most Americans don't know. Another one, it says, indoctrination plus ignorance times self-loathing equals half the country. The future is going to look back and say this was a clusterfuck of dum-dums flamed by those in power. Another one, it says, yes, it's always funny to have this kind of conversation with Americans. Not funny at all. Freaking disheartening. It says, but for only $100 a check, I have the privilege of only paying 80% of my medical bills after paying $5,000 out of pocket. Woohoo! I'm winning. Suck it, the rest of the country or the rest of the world.
Serving, and it's driven by the three big entitlement programs that are very popular: Medicare, Social Security, and Medicaid.
Social Security has nothing to do with the deficit. Social Security is totally funded by the payroll tax levied on employer and employee.
That's 70% of what we spend every year. The subject we were just discussing, the funding of the government, is about 30% of what we spend.
If you reduce the outgo of Social Security, that money would not go into the general fund to reduce the deficit. It would go into the Social Security Trust Fund. So Social Security has nothing to do with balancing a budget or erasing or lowering the deficit.
It says, during the Republican debates last night, the candidates running to be Trump's VP indicted their willingness to cut Social Security. It has nothing to do with cutting the deficit. Even Ronald Reagan exposed their lies. It says, how about we cut members of Congress so-called entitlements like tons of vacation time, unlimited sick time, great benefits, and pensions? Another comment says, interesting, the people who are millionaires and living the comfy life, want the rest of us to live in poverty. Another comment says, Mitch, your state is one of the states that takes most handout from the federal government. Another one that says, if they cut Social Security, they better cut the hundreds of dollars a month that comes out of my paycheck for it. All that money will have to go into a retirement account instead. They've been trying to go at Social Security forever. I don't think they actually can. I think it's really just a political ploy because Republicans and Democrats, both sides have old people who rely on Social Security and they vote. So, yeah, I really don't think it's any chance to do that, really. It says the first strike against Tesla in its history is rapidly expanding. Dot workers in Sweden say they will begin blocking all Tesla shipments to the country. The electricians union says it will stop servicing Tesla charging stations nationwide. Union maintenance workers are refusing to clean Tesla facilities, all because Elon Musk refused to sign a collective labor agreement with mechanics in Sweden and everywhere else. Yeah, I don't think that people hearing about this right here because the media is not covering this. It says the historic first strike against Tesla is expanding. Dock workers, electricians, and maintenance workers are refusing to work with the company, all because Elon Musk refused to sign a collective labor agreement with mechanics in Sweden. It says stop supporting him permanently since Tesla relies on child labor. Another comment that says European countries showing us Americans how to protest properly and effectively. It says, go Sweden, the world's labor force will follow your lead. We work too hard to be this broke. Another one that says, buy Volvos over lame Teslas. They have a pretty good union and they're built for infinite usage. Another one, Elon once again showing that being rich doesn't mean you're smart. Another one, the wealth hoarders doesn't want to pay his workers a fair wage. Another one, that's how you properly unionize as a nation. Another one, legalize secondary strike actions in the USA. It says the myth of the self-made CEO must end. No longer will these people take the credit and profits of the laborers. And another one that says, come on, America, we can act more like this, please. I'm kind of going fast because I just want to cover some stuff before I get out of here. It says San Antonio, Texas, 8 killed in crash after deputies chase alleged human smuggler. 8 people died in a fiery crash after deputies chased a driver from Houston who was allegedly smuggling migrants southwest of San Antonio, according to DPS. Yeah, man, these damn car chases, and we had a long ass argument on the show about this, and it's like I'm saying that they need to back off. People are dying as a result. It's like, and they're like, well, if they don't chase them, they're just gonna keep on running through lights and end up hitting people and killing somebody anyways. And I'm like, I don't know if you could say that 100% to be true, because if there's no cops chasing them, then why are they going to be, recklessly driving? It's like one hand washes the other. It's like, these insane car chases that we do, that we love to do and glorify, leads to people dying over and over and over and over and over again. So it's like, we're moving into the future. We have much better technology. We should update the way we do things. We shouldn't be doing things in archaic ways, that we did 100 years ago. Like, read another comment. It says, that's a damn shame. Shaking my head. All these innocent people lost their lives over some immigrants. Another one that says, please pass a law, something like if they get up to 80 miles per hour, just stop the chase, man. Or like, don't do chases, please. Another comment, it says, didn't Houston just make an anti-chasing policy after a deputy's mother was killed last month? Another comment that says, stop chasing, it's killing innocent people. Another one that says, they are refugees, they have every right to be here. Another comment that says, shouldn't have been here in the first place. Another one, it's so 8 lives was taken because of a BS cop that wanted to catch a human smuggler. Shaking my head. Another comment says, this is why immigration shouldn't be illegal. It's land on a bead of water floating in space that no one owns, and people are coming across invisible borders to be free of their homeland terrors. A place for ours. Shaking my head. The least we could do is let them. What the F happened to this land is your land. This land is my land, and all that. Another comment that says, Africans were smuggled on slave ships for hundreds of years. How does that relate? It says, I'll say it, the cops didn't make the smuggler break the law, and the cops didn't make the smuggler pass in a no passing zone and hit another car head on. The smuggler killed that innocent couple and the occupants of his car. If smuggler is too much of a trigger word for you, replace it with driver. Yeah, well, in this case, I mean, I don't know the details of it, but there's many other cases where it was the actual cop who hit. So if it, in this case, if it was the cop who hit the other car, would you feel differently, or would you reword what you said right now? Or would you still blame the guy that he was chasing? Another comment says, open up the borders, let everybody in. Another comment says, I thought they weren't chasing anymore. Cops are responsible. Another one that says, why were the cops chasing them if Border Patrol is letting in all them Cubans and Venezuelans and giving them luxury hotels, food, and legal status? I'm confused. Another one that says, why are they not coming up with better ideas for these high-speed chases? The innocent are always dying. Yep. Did I cover this, or was it just me watching this?
Don't have healthcare or houses or food or anything. So just because we give you all money every year, could you do something about that? Fuck, dude. That breaks my heart. But we need all that money, so y'all are gonna have to figure it out. Okay. I don't know how we'll do that, but if you don't mind me asking, what do you guys need all the money for? A lot of different stuff, but the army a lot. It's the army. Well, the military in general. Okay, that's no worries. Again, is it okay if I ask what they're gonna use it for? Yeah, dude, no worries. We're actually really excited. We're building robot soldiers that have racial biases and anger. Okay, cool. That sounds like it'll work out good. How much will that cost? Just wondering. Good question. We're actually going to do it relatively cheap. It'll cost about $600 billion a year. Okay, no worries. Actually, awesome even. And then just one other question. When people come back from war, will you guys give them healthcare and like mental health resources and things and take care of them? Fuck, man. I wish, but no. But if they wear their uniform to Applebee's and you're there, you could buy them dinner or something. Hey, a bunch of us don't have healthcare or houses or food or anything. So just because we give you all money every year, could you do something about that? Fuck, dude. That breaks my heart. But we need all that money, so y'all are gonna have to figure it out. Okay. I don't know how we'll do that, but if you don't mind me asking, what do you guys need all the money for? A lot of different stuff, but the army a lot. It's the army. Well, the military in general. Okay, that's no worries. Again, is it okay if I ask what they're gonna use it for? Yeah, dude, no worries. We're actually really excited. We're building robot soldiers that have racial biases and anger. Okay, cool. That sounds like it'll work out good.
He said, okay, cool. That sounds like that's gonna work out good. It says, Brave New Films posted this. He says, there's always money for war. Comments, it says, guess what country offers its citizens universal health care and gets minimum $2 trillion from the U.S. every year. Is that $2 trillion? Another comment says Israel have full health care and army funded by American taxpayers. In the same time, American people have education debt, homeless people are increasing, and of course, no health care. I don't know how you live like that. Another comment. It says, because you know the U.S. military have to defend democracy and freedom of speech and human rights and all that stuff. Another comment says, United States has become corporate. Another one that says, brilliant, but the figure isn't 600 billion. It's actually well over 848 billion per year. Another comment says, our government calls these expenditures American interests to justify the authority to spend. Another one, that sounds like it would work out good. It says, no worries, feeding the military industrial complex. It says, the questions are legit. Comment, it says, no worries, actually awesome even. Brilliant video. It says, no, but if they wear their uniform to Applebee's and you're there, you could buy them dinner or something. Other comment says, this is an awesome way to communicate this. Yes. Well, in this platform, at least, sigh. I don't think it's going to get through to people, though.
From the Pentagon about airstrikes in eastern Syria and the target a weapons storage facility linked to Iran and Iranian-backed groups. The Secretary of Defense revealing that the U.S. military is responding to more than 40 attacks on U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria. These attacks have left dozens of our soldiers and troops with traumatic brain injuries. Let's get straight to the breaking news with CBS's Weijia Jiang at the White House. Good evening, Weijia. So what are you learning?
Good evening to you, Nora. Tonight, at the direction of President Biden, 2 F-15 fighter jets launched airstrikes in eastern Syria at that weapons facility that is used by Iran's Revolutionary Guard and proxy forces that are backed by Iran. They were in response to attacks by those groups on U.S. troops in both Syria and Iraq. Over 40 in the last 3 weeks alone that have injured nearly 50 American service members. And just today, U.S. troops were attacked again in Syria. And in another sign of the increased tensions in the region, an American Reaper drone costing about $30 million was shot down in the Red Sea by the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels. They had fired missiles last month toward Israel, which were shot down by a U.S. naval ship. President Biden has repeatedly warned Iran, a longtime adversary of Israel, against getting involved in the war in the Middle East. Nora?
And they are sending a message tonight, no doubt. Weijia Jiang, thank you. Breaking news, because we are just learning from the Pentagon about...
It says, breaking, the U.S. has launched airstrikes on weapons storage facilities used by militant groups linked to Iran and Iranian-backed groups in retaliation for continued attacks on American forces in Iraq and Syria, according to the Secretary of Defense. Comments, it says, why are we starting a war? Another comment, it says, well, anyone who voted for Democrat President Joe Biden admitted 2 wars and every city in the U.S. in complete chaos of crime and homelessness filling every state. I thought that Donald Trump was supposed to be the warmonger. All he gave the U.S. was peace and prosperity. Another comment, it says, get out of the Middle East. The world has had enough of your corrupt interference. Another comment. My mic is acting weird. It says, why they have to get involved in airstrikes other countries for Israel while it's forbidden to other countries to support Palestine. I don't understand the idolatry of supremacy. It says, what the F U.S. is doing this? It says, bring our troops home. Why are they even there? Another one says, World War III coming right up. Another one says, Trump did this. Another one, reading these comments tells me no one remembers 9/11 and what led up to that, history repeating itself. It says, this is just sick. America don't know how to mind their business. Another comment, it says, praying for our world. Another one says, Israel and America baiting other countries into a war to try to take over the Middle East. The terrorist regime in Iran has to go. All the problems in the Middle East. is because of satanic regime in Iran. Another one, what the F, Joe Biden is the most warmongering president ever. Says, God bless our troops in America. I covered that. What was this one?
Understand the harm of Christian Zionism and blind support for the nation state of Israel. Because as someone who grew up in the church myself, who experienced a lot of Christian Zionist teaching and ideology, I don't think people realize how the Western church and Christian Zionism in America has contributed to a culture that allows people to comfortably turn a blind eye to genocide out of what they believe to be reverence for God. Just look at this video.
And for the Palestinian Christians who would say to you, we are actively being oppressed by the state of Israel, we're persecuted here, what do you say to them?
I would say, take a look at the scriptures and love them and be a blessing in any way you can, even if you're being persecuted. What did Jesus say? He said, turn the cheek.
Imagine your response to Palestinians who have to routinely pull their family members' body parts out of the rubble, being that they should turn the other cheek, that they should take joy in their oppression and occupation, that they should find a way. That woman is an American evangelical who moved to Israel out of what she felt was a calling from God to be a blessing to Israel. And her love for Israel, like many Christians in America and the West, is rooted in what she believes to be a command from God.
Most Christians will tell you, well, we love Israel because God says, I will bless those who bless my people.
It is important that every Christian knows that the Israel of the Bible, I'll call it ancient Israel, is not the Israel that is being talked about today. I'll call it modern Israel. They share the same name, but they're not remotely the same entity.
People think that Israel is some kind of continuation of Jewish governments, but it's not. It's a completely different form of government, completely different values, completely different ideology, and completely different people. These are not religious Jews that are running the country. These are atheists. And yet, the Israeli prime ministers from Ben-Gurion all the way up to Netanyahu use the Bible as an excuse for ownership of the land.
Ancient Israel was a theocratic monarchy in covenant with their God, Yahweh, a covenant rooted in the Torah and the law of Moses. It was a collection of tribes and their descendants. It was not a nation state as we understand it today, but a diverse group of related people with a primarily spiritual and religious identity. Ancient Israel existed within a specific geographic and historical context, with narratives that include ancient history, myth, religious teachings, and allegory. The modern Israel is a nation state. It defines itself as a secular liberal democracy. It makes no official claim to be in divine covenant and doesn't really have the Torah or the Bible as the basis of its laws. The modern state of Israel, established in 1948, is a settler colony like America is. It is a product of contemporary politics, diplomacy, and the 20th century Zionist movement. It is a heavily militarized apartheid state that is year by year actively displacing a nation of people, the Palestinians, trying to ethnically cleanse the land and use the Bible as justification to do so.
Here's something that might surprise you. White evangelical Christians in the U.S. are more than twice as likely as American Jews to believe that God gave Israel to the Jewish people. People that share this view are called Christian Zionists. They believe the Bible commands them to support and defend the modern-day state of Israel, regardless of what this means for the Palestinians who live under its occupation.
Christian Zionism historically gave religious merit to the taking of land from the Palestinians, and today is one of the main reasons why Israel is able to garner support from American evangelicals, including those in politics like newly elected House Speaker Mike Johnson, who sought to give $14.3 billion in military aid to Israel alone in his first act in the new role.
The first bill that I'm going to bring to this floor in just a little while will be in support of our dear friend Israel, and we're overdue in getting that done.
Restorationist Protestants, we call them evangelical Christians today, they existed hundreds of years before any Jewish Zionist was ever born. And because the evangelicals, the restorationists, had great influence in Britain, and Britain had the mandate, the Zionists very, very much adopted the Christian evangelical interpretation of the Bible, and that's what they use today.
There is a genocide unfolding in Palestine. It is being spearheaded by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and it plays on the religious convictions and the fears of American evangelicals to support the Zionist movement for a Jewish state, regardless of who gets harmed in the process. I mention fear because Zionist propaganda is even included in the Left Behind movies and books that many of us consumed over the years. These books and movies impacted millions around the world, and people still suffer from religious trauma because of them. And these fears of the end of the world, of being left behind, is heightened in this moment.
Yeah, crazy times. I think I'm gonna wrap it, y'all. I'm freaking out of steam. It's a number of things I didn't even get to. Yeah, because I really wanted to cover the Rashida Tlaib thing, but I didn't make it to it. Whatever, y'all. I'm out of steam. Peace and love. Thank y'all for joining. Thank y'all for listening.